You're lying in bed, the world around you quiet except for the rhythmic sound of your own breathing. Your mind begins to wander, through memories of yesterday, dreams of tomorrow, and the infinite possibilities that lie beyond. But instead of drifting off into restless thoughts, you find yourself gently guided by a journey through time itself. This is Level 1 to Infinity, Philosophy of Time to Fall Asleep to, a thought-provoking exploration designed to lull your mind into calm reflection while sparking curiosity about one of humanity's greatest mysteries, time. Across 30 captivating segments, we'll traverse the landscapes of memory, anticipation, creativity, ethics, and eternity. Each segment invites you to ponder profound questions. What does it mean to live fully in the present? How do our perceptions of time shape who we are? Can we ever truly understand infinity, or should we simply marvel at its mystery? From ancient myths to cutting-edge science, from personal stories to universal truths, this series blends intellectual depth with soothing storytelling, making it perfect for those moments when the day fades away and sleep beckons. Whether you're seeking solace, inspiration, or just a moment of peace, these segments will guide you deeper into the heart of existence, one timeless idea at a time. So settle in, close your eyes if you'd like, and let the philosophy of time carry you toward restful slumber, or perhaps awaken something new within you. Before we get started, if you like this content, give it a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel so you won't miss future videos. Let's get started. The River of Time. Imagine standing on the banks of a river at dawn, the first light of day casting golden ripples across its surface. The water flows steadily, uninterrupted, carrying with it leaves, twigs, and fragments of the world upstream. You watch as these pieces drift by, each one disappearing into the horizon, never to return. Now imagine this river is not made of water but of time itself, a ceaseless current that sweeps away every moment you've ever lived, leaving behind only memory and anticipation. This is how humanity has long tried to understand time, as a flowing entity always moving forward, impossible to grasp or reverse. But what does it truly mean for time to flow? Is it an immutable truth about the universe, or merely a construct of our perception? Tonight, we embark on a journey through 10 levels of understanding time, beginning here with the metaphorical river of time. The idea of time as a river stretches back thousands of years, rooted in ancient philosophies and mythologies. One of the earliest thinkers to articulate this concept was Heraclitus, a Greek philosopher who famously declared, "No man ever steps in the same river twice, for it's not the same river and he's not the same man." His words capture two profound truths about time: its constant motion and its transformative power. Just as the river changes with every passing second, so too does time reshape the world around us, and ourselves. Every tick of the clock brings new possibilities, while simultaneously erasing the past. In this sense, time is both creative and destructive, a force that gives life meaning even as it ensures nothing lasts forever. But the analogy of time as a river also raises questions. If time flows like a river, where does it originate? Where does it end? And why can't we step back into the same moment once it has passed? These are not idle musings. They touch upon some of the deepest mysteries of existence. For instance, consider the nature of the present moment, the point where the river meets your feet. It feels immediate, tangible, yet as soon as you try to hold on to it, it slips away, becoming part of the past. Modern physics complicates this picture further. According to Einstein's theory of relativity, time is not an absolute flow but rather a dimension woven into the fabric of spacetime. Depending on your perspective, the flow of time can speed up, slow down, or even loop back on itself. So, is time truly flowing, or are we simply experiencing moments in sequence like frames in a film reel? To better understand this, let's turn to an example from everyday life. Picture yourself sitting by a campfire under a starry sky. As you gaze into the flames, you notice sparks rising and fading, their brief existence mirroring the fleetingness of human experience. Each spark represents a moment in time, a fragment of the infinite river. Yet, unlike the sparks, which vanish without consequence, our moments accumulate, shaping who we are and how we perceive the world. This accumulation creates the illusion of continuity, the feeling that time is a seamless stream rather than a series of discrete events. But if we zoom out far enough, might we discover that time is more akin to those individual sparks, disconnected, ephemeral bursts of activity? This question leads us to another intriguing possibility. What if time isn't linear at all? What if, instead of a straight river, it's a vast ocean with currents swirling in unpredictable patterns? Some cultures and philosophies embrace cyclical views of time, suggesting that history repeats itself in endless loops. The Hindu concept of yugas, for example, describes cosmic cycles spanning millions of years, during which civilizations rise and fall, only to begin anew. Similarly, Nietzsche's idea of eternal recurrence posits that everything that happens will happen again infinitely. Such notions challenge the Western fixation on linear progress, inviting us to see time as a spiral or circle rather than a line. If true, this would mean that the river of time doesn't flow toward a distant sea but circles back upon itself, endlessly renewing its course. Yet, despite these alternative perspectives, most of us still perceive time as linear because that's how our brains process information. Our memories organize experiences sequentially, creating a narrative arc that gives structure to our lives. Without this sense of order, chaos would reign. Imagine waking up tomorrow unable to distinguish yesterday from last year, or worse, unable to differentiate between future plans and past regrets. Time provides the scaffolding for consciousness, allowing us to navigate the complexities of existence. But just because we experience time as linear doesn't necessarily mean it exists that way objectively. Perhaps, like the campfire sparks, our perception of time is limited by the tools we use to observe it. Let's pause here for a moment and reflect on this idea. Take a deep breath. Feel the weight of the present moment pressing gently against your awareness. Notice how quickly it slips away, replaced by the next. How strange it is that something so intangible can feel so real, so urgent. Time shapes our identity, our relationships, and our understanding of reality. And yet, when we try to pin it down, it eludes us like trying to catch water in your hands. Now let's carry this thought forward. If time flows like a river, then perhaps its banks, the boundaries that define its course, are equally important. These banks represent the frameworks we use to measure and make sense of time. Clocks, calendars, seasons, lifespans. They give form to the formless, providing anchors in an otherwise fluid continuum. However, these constructs are artificial, created by humans to impose order on the chaos of existence. A day is 24 hours not because of any inherent property of the universe but because we decided it should be so. Likewise, a year corresponds to Earth's orbit around the Sun, a fact dictated by celestial mechanics rather than universal law. Remove these markers and time becomes a boundless expanse, devoid of direction or purpose. This realization invites us to reconsider the role of subjectivity in our experience of time. Consider the phenomenon of time dilation, a cornerstone of Einstein's theory of relativity. When traveling at near-light speeds, time slows down relative to observers moving at slower velocities. Astronauts aboard the International Space Station age slightly less than people on Earth due to differences in gravitational pull and velocity. On a smaller scale, adrenaline-fueled moments, like narrowly avoiding an accident, can stretch seconds into what feels like minutes. Conversely, periods of boredom or routine often seem to pass in the blink of an eye. These examples demonstrate that time is not a fixed quantity but a malleable experience shaped by context and perception. Returning to the river analogy, this suggests that the speed and direction of the current depend largely on the observer. Someone standing on the shore sees the river differently than someone floating downstream. Similarly, our position within the flow of time influences how we perceive its passage. To a child eagerly awaiting Christmas morning, time crawls agonizingly slowly. To an elderly person reflecting on a lifetime of memories, it races by in a blur. Both perspectives are valid, yet neither captures the full essence of time. Like the river, it remains indifferent to our interpretations, flowing steadily regardless of whether we notice or care. As we contemplate the river of time, it's worth asking, why does it matter how we conceptualize it? After all, whether time is linear, cyclical, or something else entirely, its effects remain the same. Days turn into nights, seasons change, and lives come to an end. The answer lies in the implications of these models for our understanding of existence. If time is linear, then every moment is unique, irreplaceable, and finite. This lends urgency to our actions, motivating us to seize opportunities and cherish relationships. On the other hand, if time is cyclical, then loss takes on a different meaning. Death is not an endpoint but a transition, a phase in an endless cycle of renewal. Both perspectives offer comfort and challenge in equal measure, forcing us to confront the fragility and resilience of human experience. Before we move on, take another moment to reflect. Close your eyes if you'd like and visualize the river of time. See it winding through valleys and plains, carving paths through mountains and deserts. Watch as it carries moments away, depositing them in the delta of memory. Now, imagine stepping into the river, not to stop its flow but to feel its cool waters rushing past your ankles. Let it remind you of the transient beauty of existence, the delicate balance between permanence and impermanence. With this image in mind, let's transition to the next stage of our exploration. While the river of time offers a compelling metaphor, it assumes a certain inevitability, a steady progression from past to future. But what if time weren't linear at all? What if it were more like a circle looping back on itself in an endless cycle? This notion, known as eternal return, challenges the very foundation of our understanding of time and forces us to reconsider the significance of every decision we make. Join me as we dive deeper into this fascinating paradox. Eternal return, a looping cosmos. Imagine standing in a vast desert under an endless night sky. The stars above seem to pulse rhythmically as though they are breathing with you. You glance at your watch, it's stopped. Not broken but frozen, its hands locked in place. For a moment you feel untethered from time itself. Then it hits you. What if this isn't the first time you've stood here? What if every step you take, every breath you draw has already happened, and will happen again infinitely? This unsettling thought is the essence of eternal return, a concept that challenges our understanding of time and existence. Eternal return posits that all events recur endlessly in identical form. Popularized by Friedrich Nietzsche, the idea invites us to consider the weight of our choices within an infinite loop. If everything repeats, your joys, sorrows, triumphs, and failures, how would you live differently? Would you embrace each moment with gratitude, or would the inevitability of repetition paralyze you with dread? Nietzsche framed this as a thought experiment. What if a demon crept after you into your loneliest loneliness and said to you, "This life as you now live it and have lived it, you will have to live once again and countless times more?" How would you respond? The notion of eternal recurrence predates Nietzsche, appearing in various forms across cultures and philosophies. Ancient Egyptians believed in cycles of creation and destruction governed by cosmic order. Hindu cosmology describes yugas, epochs lasting millions of years, during which civilizations rise and fall only to begin anew. Even physics hints at cyclical patterns. Some interpretations of quantum mechanics suggest that particles might exist in repeating states due to finite possibilities within an infinite universe. These ideas converge on a single, profound question. Is time linear or is it a closed loop? To better grasp the implications of eternal return, let's examine its practical effects. Imagine waking up tomorrow morning and reliving today exactly as it unfolded, the same conversations, emotions, even the same thoughts. Now imagine this process continuing indefinitely. At first glance, such repetition might seem maddening, a Sisyphean punishment devoid of novelty or purpose. Yet there's another way to interpret it. If every moment recurs eternally, then no action is insignificant. Each decision carries infinite weight because it echoes forever. This realization forces us to confront the value we assign to our lives. Are we content with how we spend our days, knowing they'll repeat endlessly? Or do we yearn for change, hoping to rewrite the script before the next iteration begins? But eternal return also raises metaphysical questions about identity and free will. If history loops back on itself, does individual agency matter? After all, if outcomes are predetermined by the cycle, then attempts to alter fate become futile gestures. On the other hand, proponents argue that eternal recurrence affirms human creativity and resilience. By embracing the inevitability of repetition, we find liberation, not from the cycle itself but from fear of death and loss. In a looping cosmos, nothing truly ends, offering solace to those who grieve or despair. Let's pause here for a moment and reflect on this idea. Take a deep breath. Feel the stillness around you. Consider the possibility that this exact instant has occurred countless times before, and will occur countless times again. Does this thought bring comfort or unease? Perhaps both. The paradoxical nature of eternal return lies in its ability to evoke contradictory emotions simultaneously: awe and terror, hope and resignation. It reminds us that meaning is not inherent but constructed, shaped by how we choose to engage with the world. Now, let's turn our attention to the scientific underpinnings of eternal return. While primarily philosophical, the concept resonates with certain theories in physics. In general relativity, solutions like Gödel's rotating universe model allow for closed time-like curves, where spacetime loops back on itself. Though speculative, these scenarios suggest that time could theoretically operate in cycles rather than a straight line. Quantum mechanics adds another layer of complexity. According to the many-worlds interpretation, every possible outcome branches off into parallel universes. Could some of these branches eventually reconnect, forming a closed loop? While far from proven, these hypotheses illustrate how science continues to grapple with the enigma of time. Returning to philosophy, eternal return challenges conventional notions of progress. Modern society often equates forward motion with improvement, assuming that humanity advances steadily toward greater knowledge and prosperity. But what if progress is illusory, merely a phase within an endless cycle? This perspective shifts focus from destination to journey, emphasizing the importance of living fully in the present. Rather than striving for future rewards, we're encouraged to savor each moment, recognizing its intrinsic value regardless of what comes next. Yet eternal return also introduces existential dilemmas. If everything repeats, does suffering lose its sting, or does it intensify knowing pain will resurface indefinitely? Conversely, do moments of happiness diminish when stripped of their uniqueness, becoming mere echoes of themselves? These questions underscore the tension between permanence and impermanence. A looping cosmos offers stability, yet robs us of finality. There's no ultimate resolution, only perpetual recurrence. As we contemplate eternal return, it's worth considering its psychological impact. Human beings crave closure, seeking resolution to conflicts and clarity about the future. Eternal recurrence denies this desire, presenting instead a vision of eternity without end. For some, this might inspire nihilism, rendering effort meaningless in the face of inevitability. Others might find empowerment, using the cycle as motivation to act authentically and courageously. Either way, the concept demands introspection, forcing us to evaluate what truly matters in life. Before moving on, take another moment to reflect. Close your eyes if you'd like and visualize the loop of existence. Picture yourself standing at the center of a spiral, watching events unfold around you in perfect symmetry. Notice how the past merges seamlessly with the future, creating a continuous flow. Now imagine stepping outside the loop, not to escape it but to observe it from afar. From this vantage point, the cycle appears less oppressive, more harmonious. It becomes a dance, a rhythm woven into the fabric of reality. With this image in mind, let's transition to the next stage of our exploration. While eternal return assumes a deterministic framework, what happens when randomness enters the equation? Quantum indeterminacy suggests that not everything is preordained, introducing elements of chance into the cosmic tapestry. Could freedom coexist with repetition, allowing for variation within the loop? Join me as we delve deeper into uncertainty and its role in shaping time's contours. The paradox of free will. Imagine standing at a crossroads in the middle of an endless desert. Two paths stretch out before you, each leading to unknown destinations. You feel the weight of choice pressing down on your shoulders. Should you go left or right? But what if the decision isn't truly yours to make? What if every step you take, every thought you have, is predetermined by forces beyond your control? This unsettling question lies at the heart of one of humanity's most enduring philosophical debates, the paradox of free will. Free will is the belief that we possess agency, the ability to make choices independent of external constraints. It's the foundation of morality, accountability, and personal responsibility. Yet, when viewed through the lens of time, this cherished notion begins to unravel. If time flows linearly as many assume, then every moment follows from the one before it, governed by cause and effect. In such a deterministic universe, your decisions aren't acts of freedom but inevitable outcomes dictated by prior conditions. Every choice you think you've made has already been scripted by the unfolding sequence of events. Consider this. If we rewind the clock to any given moment in your life, would you make the same decisions again under identical circumstances? Determinists argue yes, you'd have no choice. Your genetics, upbringing, environment, and even subconscious influences shape your thoughts and actions in ways you may not fully comprehend. From this perspective, free will becomes an illusion, a comforting fiction that masks the harsh reality of inevitability. But let's delve deeper into the mechanics of determinism. Picture a domino chain stretching across an infinite plane. Each domino represents an event, and its fall triggers the next in an unbroken sequence. Now imagine yourself as one of those dominoes, a single link in a vast causal chain. Your actions, though seemingly autonomous, are merely reactions to the dominoes that preceded you. Even quantum mechanics, which introduces randomness at microscopic levels, doesn't necessarily rescue free will. Randomness implies unpredictability, not autonomy. A random event is still outside your control, leaving you just as powerless as in a deterministic framework. This brings us to the crux of the paradox. If our choices are either preordained or random, where does free will fit in? Some philosophers propose compatibilism, arguing that free will and determinism can coexist. According to this view, Freedom isn't about escaping causality but acting according to your desires and motivations. As long as your decisions align with your internal preferences, you're exercising free will, even if those preferences themselves were shaped by external factors. While this offers a pragmatic resolution, it sidesteps the deeper existential issue. Are you truly free if your desires are products of forces beyond your influence? Let's pause here for a moment and reflect. Take a deep breath. Consider the last significant decision you made, perhaps choosing a career path, entering a relationship, or relocating to a new city. Did you feel in control or were you swept along by circumstances? Think about the countless variables that influenced your choice. Advice from friends, societal expectations, financial pressures, even fleeting emotions. How much of that decision was truly yours? And if it wasn't entirely yours, does that diminish its significance or enhance it? The implications of rejecting free will are profound. Without it, moral accountability loses its footing. If your actions are predetermined, how can you be held responsible for them? Should criminals be punished for crimes they couldn't avoid committing? Conversely, should heroes be celebrated for deeds they had no power to prevent? These questions destabilize the foundations of justice and ethics, forcing us to reconsider what it means to live ethically in a deterministic world. Yet, abandoning free will also carries psychological risks. Studies show that people who believe their lives are predetermined often experience diminished motivation and reduced well-being. Believing you lack control over your fate fosters passivity, resignation, and even nihilism. On the other hand, embracing free will, even if it's illusory, can inspire hope, resilience, and a sense of purpose. Perhaps the value of free will lies less in its objective truth than in its subjective impact. Now, let's consider the role of consciousness in this debate. Conscious awareness is central to our experience of free will. We perceive ourselves as deliberators, weighing options and selecting courses of action. But neuroscience complicates this picture. Brain imaging studies reveal that decisions form in unconscious regions of the brain seconds before we become aware of them. By the time you consciously choose, your mind has already decided. This lag suggests that what feels like free will might simply be post hoc rationalization, an attempt to explain decisions after they've been made. To illustrate, imagine sitting in a restaurant deciding between pasta and salad. You weigh the pros and cons, imagining flavors and textures. Finally, you settle on the salad, believing you exercise free will. But what if your brain had already chosen based on subtle cues, your mood, hunger level, or even the waiter's recommendation? Your conscious deliberation was merely window dressing, providing a narrative to justify a decision already set in motion. Despite these challenges, some argue that indeterminacy in quantum mechanics leaves room for genuine free will. If particles behave unpredictably at fundamental levels, could human consciousness harness this randomness to break free from determinism? While speculative, this idea opens intriguing possibilities. Perhaps free will resides in the interplay between chaos and order, allowing us to navigate uncertainty while remaining grounded in causality. Returning to the metaphor of the crossroads, let's explore another dimension of the paradox: time travel. Imagine stepping into a time machine and revisiting a pivotal moment in your life. Would you choose differently, knowing the consequences of your original decision? If so, does this imply that free will exists independently of temporal constraints? Or does altering the past create alternate timelines, suggesting that free will operates within branching realities rather than a single linear path? Time travel introduces yet another layer of complexity: the bootstrap paradox. Suppose you receive advice from your future self, which influences your current decisions. Who originated the advice? In a closed loop, cause and effect blur together, making it impossible to pinpoint the source of agency. This paradox mirrors the broader dilemma of free will. If actions are both causes and effects, where does autonomy begin or end? Before moving on, take another moment to reflect. Close your eyes if you'd like and visualize the crossroads once more. This time, see yourself standing there not alone but surrounded by shadowy figures representing all versions of yourself across time, past, present, and future. Each figure tugs at you, urging you toward different paths. Notice how their voices overlap, creating a cacophony of conflicting desires. Now ask yourself, is there a true self among them capable of making an unfettered choice? Or are you forever caught in the web of interconnected selves? With this image in mind, let's transition to the next stage of our exploration. While the paradox of free will assumes a deterministic or random universe, what happens when consciousness transcends physical laws altogether? Mystics and philosophers alike have speculated about realms where time and causality dissolve, offering glimpses of pure being. Could such states provide refuge from the constraints of free will, or deepen the mystery further? Join me as we journey into the timeless void. Does time even exist? Imagine waking up one morning and realizing that time has vanished. There's no clock ticking on the wall, no sun rising or setting to mark the hours, no sense of before or after. Everything simply is. This thought experiment may sound absurd. After all, time feels as real as the ground beneath your feet. But philosophers and physicists alike have dared to ask, does time even exist, or is it merely an illusion constructed by our minds? At first glance, the question seems preposterous. After all, we experience time every day in countless ways. Deadlines loom, birthdays pass, seasons change. Yet, when pressed to define what time actually is, most people struggle. Is it a tangible entity like air or water? Or is it something more abstract, a framework for organizing events? The philosopher Immanuel Kant argued that time isn't an external reality but rather a mental construct, a way for humans to impose order on sensory data. Without this internal scaffolding, he believed, chaos would reign. To better understand this idea, let's turn to physics. Einstein's theory of relativity shattered traditional notions of time as absolute and universal. Instead, time became relative, a dimension intertwined with space in what's known as spacetime. According to relativity, time can stretch or contract depending on speed and gravity. For instance, astronauts aboard the International Space Station age slightly less than those on Earth due to differences in gravitational pull. These findings suggest that time isn't a fixed backdrop against which events unfold. Instead, it bends and warps based on context. But if time is so malleable, how do we know it exists at all? Some physicists propose that time might be nothing more than a convenient fiction. Julian Barber, a theoretical physicist, argues that time doesn't flow, it's static. In his view, the universe consists of countless nows, each frozen in place like snapshots in a photo album. What we perceive as movement through time is simply a sequence of these static moments. If true, this would mean that everything that ever happened, and everything that will happen, already exists simultaneously in a timeless block universe. Let's pause here for a moment and reflect. Take a deep breath. Consider the last time you felt time slipping away, perhaps during a busy workday or while waiting anxiously for news. Did time feel real then? Now imagine stepping outside of time entirely, observing all moments at once. How would that change your perspective on life? Would the urgency of deadlines fade, replaced by a serene acceptance of existence? Or would the absence of temporal boundaries leave you adrift, untethered from purpose? The implications of a timeless universe are profound. Without time, concepts like cause and effect lose their meaning. Events wouldn't unfold sequentially, they'd simply coexist. A tree falling in the forest wouldn't precede the sound it makes. The two would occur together, inseparable. This challenges not only our understanding of reality but also our sense of self. Identity relies heavily on continuity over time. We see ourselves as evolving beings, shaped by past experiences and striving toward future goals. But if time doesn't flow, then who, or what, are we? Philosophers grappling with this paradox often invoke the metaphor of a river. Heraclitus famously said, "You cannot step into the same river twice," highlighting time's constant motion. Yet, if time is illusory, the river analogy falls apart. Without forward momentum, the river becomes a still pond, its surface reflecting infinite versions of itself. This raises unsettling questions about memory and anticipation. Are memories remnants of actual experiences, or are they illusions created by the brain to simulate temporal progression? Similarly, does anticipation prepare us for future events, or does it fabricate scenarios that never truly arrive? Now, let's consider quantum mechanics, which further complicates the nature of time. At subatomic scales, particles behave unpredictably, existing in multiple states simultaneously until observed. Some interpretations suggest that time itself operates similarly, that moments don't resolve into a single outcome until measured. This implies that time isn't continuous but fragmented, composed of discrete units akin to frames in a film reel. If true, our perception of smooth temporal flow could be an artifact of consciousness stitching these frames together. Yet, rejecting time as objectively real doesn't necessarily negate its utility. Even if time is a construct, it serves a vital function. Language, culture, and technology depend on shared assumptions about temporality. Without agreed-upon markers like days, months, and years, society would collapse into disarray. Moreover, time provides structure for personal growth and reflection. Journaling, for example, allows individuals to track changes over weeks, months, or decades. Whether or not time exists independently, its role in shaping human experience is undeniable. Returning to the thought experiment of waking up in a timeless world, let's explore another possibility. What if time exists only subjectively? Neuroscientists point out that our brains process information sequentially, creating the illusion of linear progression. When recalling an event, neurons fire in patterns similar to those active during the original experience. This suggests that time isn't externally imposed but internally generated. Each person carries their own timeline, shaped by unique perceptions and emotions. From this perspective, time isn't a universal truth but a deeply personal phenomenon. Consider this analogy. Imagine attending a concert. To the audience, the performance unfolds chronologically, from the opening note to the final encore. But for the musicians, the music exists simultaneously in their minds. They anticipate harmonies before they're played, blending past, present, and future into a cohesive whole. Could human consciousness operate similarly, collapsing multidimensional awareness into a linear narrative for simplicity's sake? Before moving on, take another moment to reflect. Close your eyes if you'd like, and visualize yourself floating in a vast, empty void. Around you, fragments of moments swirl like leaves caught in a breeze. Some represent cherished memories, others depict fears or aspirations. Notice how they intermingle, defying chronological order. Now ask yourself, do these moments require time to hold meaning, or do they exist independently of sequence? With this image in mind, let's transition to the next stage of our exploration. While the debate over time's existence hinges largely on intellectual arguments, what happens when we confront its absence emotionally? Grief, nostalgia, and hope all hinge on temporal frameworks. Removing time strips away these anchors, leaving raw, unfiltered emotion. Join me as we delve into the psychological dimensions of timelessness. Dreamtime, where seconds stretch forever. Imagine this. You're standing at the edge of a cliff, the wind whipping around you. Suddenly you step off, not falling but floating weightlessly as the world slows to a crawl. Each heartbeat echoes like thunder, and the stars above stretch into shimmering ribbons of light. Time feels elastic, bending to your will, or perhaps unraveling entirely. This is Dreamtime, a realm where seconds stretch into eternity, and moments become infinite. But what happens when time distorts so dramatically? And why does it feel so real? Dreams have long fascinated humanity because they defy the rules of waking life. In dreams, time behaves unpredictably. Hours can pass in what feels like minutes, or vice versa. A single night's sleep might contain decades' worth of adventures, only for you to wake up and realize mere hours have elapsed. Scientists attribute this phenomenon to the brain's altered state during REM, rapid eye movement, sleep, when sensory input is minimized and neural activity creates vivid narratives. Yet, the subjective experience of dreamtime transcends biology. It taps into something deeper, almost mystical. To understand dreamtime, let's first examine how our perception of time operates in the waking world. Our brains process information sequentially, organizing events into a coherent timeline. External stimuli, like clocks, sunlight, or conversations, anchor us to a shared temporal framework. Without these anchors, however, time becomes fluid. Dreams exemplify this beautifully. When immersed in a dream, we lack external reference points, leaving our subconscious free to manipulate duration and sequence. A fleeting glance at a clock in a dream might show wildly inconsistent times, reflecting the brain's inability to maintain temporal consistency. But dreamtime isn't just about distorted durations, it also challenges causality. In dreams, cause and effect often blur together. For instance, imagine dreaming that you're running through a forest, pursued by an unseen force. Suddenly, without warning, you find yourself standing in a crowded marketplace, holding a cup of coffee. There's no logical transition between scenes, just an abrupt shift in context. This nonlinear storytelling mirrors the way memories are stored and retrieved in the brain. During REM sleep, the hippocampus, a region responsible for memory consolidation, replays fragments of experiences, weaving them into surreal tapestries. The result is a dreamscape where time loops, leaps, and collapses upon itself. Let's pause here for a moment and reflect. Take a deep breath. Think about a recent dream you've had. Was there a sense of urgency even though nothing real was at stake? Did time seem to stretch or compress depending on the situation? These sensations reveal how deeply ingrained our relationship with time is, even in unconscious states. Dreamtime reminds us that time isn't merely a physical property. It's a psychological construct shaped by perception and emotion. The implications of dreamtime extend far beyond sleep. They challenge our assumptions about reality itself. If time can warp so dramatically within dreams, how do we know it behaves consistently in waking life? Philosophers have long debated whether objective time exists independently of human consciousness. Some argue that time is a universal constant, ticking away regardless of observation. Others contend that time arises from the act of perceiving, a product of consciousness rather than an inherent feature of the universe. Dreamtime blurs the line between these perspectives, suggesting that time might be both real and illusory depending on context. Consider this analogy. Imagine watching a movie. On screen, characters move through their lives, experiencing joys, sorrows, and conflicts. To them, each scene unfolds in real time. Yet, as viewers, we know the entire story already exists on the film reel. We can fast forward, rewind, or pause at will, manipulating the narrative outside its internal logic. Similarly, Dreamtime allows us to step outside the constraints of linear progression, exploring alternate rhythms and paces. It invites us to question whether our waking lives are similarly scripted, or if we possess the power to edit the script ourselves. Now, let's delve into the emotional dimensions of Dreamtime. Dreams often amplify emotions, making joy more euphoric and fear more paralyzing. This intensification stems partly from the absence of temporal boundaries. Without the pressure of deadlines or the passage of hours, feelings linger indefinitely, saturating every moment. Have you ever woken up from a nightmare drenched in sweat, heart pounding, as if the terror were still unfolding? That visceral reaction underscores the lingering impact of Dreamtime. Even after returning to waking life, the residue of those stretched-out moments remains. Interestingly, some cultures embrace Dreamtime not as a personal phenomenon but as a collective spiritual experience. Indigenous Australian traditions, for example, speak of the dreaming, a timeless era when ancestral beings created the world. In this cosmology, past, present, and future coexist simultaneously, accessible through rituals, stories, and visions. The dreaming isn't confined to sleep, it permeates everyday life, shaping relationships, laws, and identities. This perspective reframes Dreamtime as a bridge between individual consciousness and universal truth, offering glimpses of eternity beyond mortal comprehension. Returning to science, researchers continue to explore the mechanics of Dreamtime. Studies suggest that the brain's prefrontal cortex, the area responsible for rational thought and self-awareness, becomes less active during REM sleep. Without this regulatory function, imagination runs wild, untethered by logic or proportion. This explains why Dreamtime often feels hyper-real, despite its nonsensical elements. Colors appear brighter, sounds sharper, and emotions more intense. Even mundane tasks take on epic significance, as if performed under a magnifying glass. Before moving on, take another moment to reflect. Close your eyes if you'd like and visualize yourself stepping into a dream. Feel the air shift around you, thick with possibility. Notice how time stretches and contracts, responding to your thoughts and actions. Now ask yourself, what would you do if you could manipulate time at will? Would you linger in moments of happiness or skip past pain? Or would you surrender to the flow, letting Dreamtime guide you wherever it leads? With this image in mind, let's transition to the next stage of our exploration. While Dreamtime offers a tantalizing glimpse into the malleability of time, what happens when we confront its extremes? Near-death experiences, NDEs, often involve similar distortions of time, yet they carry profound existential weight. Join me as we journey into the liminal spaces where time dissolves altogether. Timelessness in near-death experiences. Imagine this: you're floating weightlessly, suspended in an infinite void. Around you, colors pulse and shift like living waves, their hues too vibrant to describe. There's no sound, yet a profound sense of peace washes over you. Time ceases to exist, not just momentarily but entirely. Hours feel like seconds, or perhaps it's the other way around, there's no way to tell. This is the realm of near-death experiences, NDEs, where time dissolves into pure being, leaving behind only awe and wonder. But what does it mean to step outside of time? And how do these moments reshape our understanding of existence? Near-death experiences have captivated humanity for centuries, appearing in myths, spiritual traditions, and modern accounts alike. People who've undergone NDEs often describe them as transformative, bordering on mystical. A common thread among these stories is the sensation of timelessness, a state where past, present, and future merge into a single, eternal now. For those who return from the brink, this experience leaves an indelible mark, challenging their assumptions about life, death, and the nature of reality itself. To understand why time vanishes during NDEs, we must first consider the brain's role in constructing temporal awareness. In waking life, our perception of time relies heavily on external stimuli, clocks ticking, sunlight shifting, conversations unfolding. These cues ground us in a shared timeline, creating the illusion of linear progression. During an NDE, however, the body enters a critical state, often accompanied by reduced blood flow to the brain and altered neural activity. Without sensory input to anchor consciousness, the mind transcends its usual constraints, venturing into uncharted territory. What emerges in this liminal space defies explanation. Survivors frequently report perceiving events with extraordinary clarity, as if every detail were magnified infinitely. One person might recall reliving their entire life in a matter of seconds, each memory imbued with vivid emotion and significance. Another might describe encountering loved ones who've passed away, engaging in conversations that feel timeless and complete. These narratives suggest that time isn't merely absent during NDEs, it's replaced by something far richer and more profound. Instead of moving forward sequentially, individuals seem to access a higher dimension where all moments coexist simultaneously. Let's pause here for a moment and reflect. Take a deep breath. Consider the last time you felt truly present, unburdened by thoughts of the past or anxieties about the future. Now imagine extending that feeling indefinitely, stretching it across eternity. What emotions arise? Do you feel liberated, unshackled from the relentless march of time? Or does the absence of temporal boundaries leave you disoriented, searching for structure? These questions mirror the paradoxical nature of NDEs, which evoke both serenity and existential awe. The implications of timelessness in NDEs extend beyond personal testimony. They challenge fundamental assumptions about human consciousness and its relationship to time. If the brain can transcend temporal limitations under extreme conditions, does this imply that time is inherently illusory? Or does it suggest that our perception of time is merely a product of ordinary neurological functioning, constrained by biology rather than physics? Philosophers and scientists alike grapple with these questions, seeking to reconcile subjective reports with objective evidence. Consider this analogy. Imagine standing inside a vast cathedral, its stained glass windows casting kaleidoscopic patterns onto the floor. Each pane represents a fragment of your life, a moment frozen in time. From within the cathedral, you see these fragments individually, piecing them together into a coherent narrative. But step outside and suddenly the entire structure reveals itself at once, whole and interconnected. Similarly, NDEs may offer a glimpse of existence from outside conventional time, allowing individuals to view their lives holistically rather than incrementally. Now, let's delve deeper into the emotional dimensions of timelessness. Many survivors describe overwhelming feelings of love, acceptance, and unity during NDEs. Stripped of temporal boundaries, they report connecting with others, or even the universe itself, at a level previously unimaginable. This sense of oneness transcends language and logic, touching the core of human experience. It's as though stepping outside of time grants access to a universal truth. We are all part of something greater, bound together by threads invisible to waking eyes. Interestingly, cultural and religious contexts shape how people interpret these encounters. Some view NDEs as divine interventions, proof of an afterlife or higher power. Others frame them as psychological phenomena, products of oxygen deprivation or heightened brain activity. Yet regardless of interpretation, the underlying theme remains consistent. Timelessness fosters a profound shift in perspective. Individuals emerge from NDEs with renewed priorities, emphasizing relationships, compassion, and meaning over material success or fleeting pleasures. Returning to science, researchers continue to investigate the mechanisms behind NDEs. Studies using EEGs and fMRIs reveal unusual patterns of brain activity during such episodes, including surges in gamma waves associated with heightened awareness. These findings suggest that the brain undergoes a kind of hyperconsciousness during NDEs, accessing realms typically inaccessible. Whether this represents a genuine expansion of consciousness or a final burst of neural fireworks remains debated, but the effects are undeniable. Before moving on, take another moment to reflect. Close your eyes if you'd like, and visualize yourself stepping into the void described earlier. Feel the absence of time pressing gently against your awareness. Notice how memories and anticipations dissolve, leaving only the present moment stretched infinitely wide. Now ask yourself, would you embrace this state willingly, knowing it offers clarity and connection beyond ordinary comprehension? Or would the loss of familiar temporal markers feel too unsettling to bear? With this image in mind, Let's transition to the next stage of our exploration. While NDEs provide glimpses of timelessness, what happens when we attempt to recreate such states consciously? Meditation, psychedelics, and other practices promise access to altered states of consciousness, blurring the boundaries between self and cosmos. Join me as we journey further into the mysteries of transcending time. Time travel, science or fiction? Imagine this. You're standing in a dimly lit laboratory, the air buzzing with electricity. Before you sits a sleek, metallic machine humming softly, its surface etched with cryptic symbols and glowing dials. A scientist gestures toward the contraption, explaining that it can transport you to any point in time, past or future. Would you step inside? For centuries, humanity has been captivated by the idea of time travel, weaving tales of adventure, paradoxes, and moral dilemmas. But is time travel merely the stuff of science fiction, or could it one day become scientific fact? Let's delve into the possibilities. The concept of time travel first entered popular culture through literature, most notably in H.G. Wells' The Time Machine, 1895. Since then, countless stories have explored the implications of moving backward or forward in time. From Back to the Future to Doctor Who, these narratives entertain us with thrilling scenarios, but they also raise profound questions about causality, free will, and the nature of reality itself. At its core, time travel challenges our understanding of time as a linear progression, forcing us to confront the possibility that the past, present, and future might coexist simultaneously. To assess whether time travel is scientifically plausible, we must turn to physics, and specifically Einstein's theory of relativity. According to general relativity, spacetime is a malleable fabric that can bend and warp under the influence of mass and energy. This principle gives rise to phenomena like time dilation, where time slows down for objects moving at near light speeds relative to stationary observers. Astronauts aboard the International Space Station age slightly less than people on Earth due to differences in gravitational pull and velocity. While this effect is minuscule in everyday life, it demonstrates that time isn't absolute. It's flexible. But what about actual time travel? Could humans build machines capable of traversing temporal boundaries? Some theoretical models suggest yes, albeit under highly improbable conditions. Wormholes, hypothetical tunnels connecting distant points in spacetime, are often cited as potential gateways for time travel. Imagine stepping into one end of a wormhole located near a massive black hole and emerging from the other end thousands of years in the future, or past. However, creating and stabilizing a wormhole would require exotic matter with negative energy density, something we've yet to discover or produce. Another possibility lies in closed time-like curves, CTCs, solutions to Einstein's equations that allow for loops in spacetime. In essence, CTCs enable events to repeat endlessly, forming a kind of temporal circuit. Kurt Gödel, a mathematician and friend of Einstein, famously demonstrated that rotating universes could theoretically support CTCs. While fascinating, such models remain speculative, requiring conditions unlikely to exist in our universe. Nevertheless, they illustrate how the laws of physics don't outright forbid time travel. They simply make it exceedingly difficult. Let's pause here for a moment and reflect. Take a deep breath. Consider the ethical and philosophical ramifications of time travel. If you could go back and alter history, would you? What if your actions inadvertently created a worse outcome, a so-called butterfly effect? The grandfather paradox encapsulates this dilemma. If you traveled back in time and accidentally prevented your grandparents from meeting, would you cease to exist? Such questions highlight the fragility of causality and the potential dangers of tampering with time. The implications of time travel extend far beyond individual choices. They challenge our notions of destiny and free will. If the future already exists, waiting to be visited, does that mean our lives are predetermined? Or does time travel introduce branching timelines, where every decision spawns alternate realities? These possibilities blur the line between science and philosophy, inviting us to reconsider the nature of existence itself. Now, let's consider the role of quantum mechanics in time travel theories. Quantum entanglement, the phenomenon where particles remain interconnected regardless of distance, hints at non-locality, suggesting that information might transcend traditional spatial and temporal constraints. Some interpretations, like the many-worlds hypothesis, posit that every possible outcome of an event occurs in parallel universes. In this framework, traveling to the past wouldn't change history. Instead, it would create a new timeline diverging from the original. While speculative, these ideas offer intriguing avenues for reconciling time travel with causality. Interestingly, time travel isn't confined to academic discourse. it permeates cultural mythology and folklore. Ancient myths often feature characters journeying to underworlds or celestial realms, encountering beings outside normal time. Modern religions echo similar themes, describing visions of eternity or divine intervention. These narratives underscore humanity's enduring fascination with transcending time, whether through technology, spirituality, or imagination. Returning to science, researchers continue to explore the feasibility of time travel. Experiments involving particle accelerators and quantum computers aim to test the limits of causality and information transfer. While no definitive evidence supports time travel's viability, each discovery brings us closer to understanding the fundamental nature of time. Even if practical time machines remain elusive, the pursuit itself enriches our knowledge of the cosmos. Before moving on, take another moment to reflect. Close your eyes if you'd like, and visualize yourself stepping into a time machine. Where, or when, would you go? Would you seek wisdom from the ancients, witness pivotal moments in history, or glimpse humanity's future? Now ask yourself, how would experiencing time travel reshape your perspective on life? Would it deepen your appreciation for the present, or leave you yearning for unreachable eras? With this image in mind, let's transition to the next stage of our exploration. While time travel remains speculative, its allure persists because it taps into universal desires, to undo mistakes, to witness wonders, to transcend mortality. But what happens when we confront the ultimate boundary, not just the limits of time but the end of everything? Join me as we venture into the abyss of entropy and the arrow of time. The arrow of time. Why does it move forward? Imagine this. You're holding a glass in your hand, filled to the brim with water. Without warning, it slips from your grasp and shatters on the floor. Shards scatter, liquid pools. It's a chaotic mess. Now imagine rewinding that moment. The shards leap off the ground, reassembling themselves into a perfect glass. Water defies gravity, flowing upward until the glass is whole again. This reversal seems absurd because we instinctively understand that time moves forward, never backward. But why? What propels the arrow of time in one direction only? Let's unravel this cosmic riddle. The concept of the arrow of time refers to the asymmetry between past and future, the fact that events unfold sequentially, always progressing from order to disorder. This phenomenon is deeply tied to the second law of thermodynamics, which states that entropy, a measure of disorder, always increases over time. In simple terms, systems naturally evolve from states of low entropy, order, to high entropy, disorder. A pristine glass represents low entropy. Once broken, its shards embody high entropy. The transition feels inevitable because it aligns with the universal trend toward greater randomness. But why does entropy dictate the direction of time? To answer this, let's examine the origins of the universe. Cosmologists believe that the Big Bang created an exceptionally ordered state, a singularity of unimaginable density and uniformity. From this initial condition, the cosmos expanded, spreading energy and matter across space. As the universe grew, so did its entropy, giving rise to stars, galaxies, planets, and eventually life itself. If the Big Bang had been maximally disordered instead of ordered, time as we know it might not exist. There would be no discernible flow, no distinction between past and future. Let's pause here for a moment and reflect. Take a deep breath. Consider the countless examples of entropy in daily life. Ice melting into water, perfume diffusing through air, or even aging itself. These processes feel irreversible because they increase disorder. Yet, at the microscopic level, physical laws are symmetric. They work equally well whether time runs forward or backward. So why don't we see eggs unscrambling themselves or spilled coffee jumping back into cups? The answer lies in probability. While individual particles can move randomly, large-scale systems overwhelmingly favor configurations with higher entropy. It's simply far more likely for things to fall apart than to spontaneously reassemble. The implications of the arrow of time extend beyond physics. They shape how we perceive reality, organize memories, and plan for the future. Our brains process information sequentially, creating narratives rooted in cause and effect. We remember the past vividly but can only speculate about the future. This asymmetry reinforces our sense of temporal progression, making the forward march of time feel intuitive, even though it remains fundamentally mysterious. Without the arrow of time, causality would collapse, leaving us adrift in a sea of simultaneity. Now, let's delve deeper into the philosophical dimensions of the arrow of time. Some argue that its existence imposes meaning on human endeavors. After all, if time flowed backward, or not at all, our actions would lack consequence. Effort, growth, and achievement hinge on the belief that today shapes tomorrow. The inevitability of entropy adds urgency to these pursuits, reminding us that opportunities are fleeting. Yet there's also beauty in impermanence. Just as flowers bloom and fade, so too do moments in time. Their transience lends them value, urging us to cherish each instant before it slips away. Interestingly, the arrow of time intersects with questions of free will and determinism. If entropy governs the unfolding of events, where does agency fit in? Are we merely passengers on a predetermined journey, carried along by the tides of increasing disorder? Or does consciousness allow us to navigate the currents of time, shaping outcomes despite underlying constraints? These debates underscore the tension between fate and autonomy, echoing broader existential dilemmas. Returning to science, researchers continue to probe the nature of the arrow of time. Experiments involving quantum mechanics reveal tantalizing hints of temporal symmetry at microscopic scales. For instance, certain particle interactions appear reversible when viewed under specific conditions. However, scaling up these findings to macroscopic phenomena proves challenging. Entropy dominates at larger levels, obscuring traces of time reversal. This dichotomy highlights the complexity of reconciling quantum behavior with classical observations. Before moving on, take another moment to reflect. Close your eyes if you'd like, and visualize the arrow of time stretching endlessly before you. Notice how it carries fragments of your life, memories, dreams, aspirations, into the unknown. Now ask yourself, would you want to reverse the arrow, undoing mistakes but sacrificing lessons learned? Or does the forward motion of time grant purpose, grounding us in a shared reality? With this image in mind, let's transition to the next stage of our exploration. While the arrow of time defines our experience of existence, what happens when it falters? Black holes distort spacetime so severely that they challenge conventional notions of causality and sequence. Could these enigmatic objects hold clues to transcending, or even reversing, the arrow of time? Join me as we peer into the abyss. Black holes, gateways beyond time? Imagine this. You're floating in the vastness of space, staring at a black hole, a swirling abyss of darkness surrounded by a glowing ring of light. Its gravitational pull is so immense that not even light can escape its grasp. But what lies beyond the event horizon? Could these enigmatic objects serve as portals to other times, dimensions, or realities? Black holes challenge our understanding of time and space, offering tantalizing glimpses into realms where the rules of physics break down. Let's peer into the abyss and explore whether black holes are gateways beyond time. Black holes have long fascinated humanity because they defy conventional logic. At their core lies the singularity, a point of infinite density where spacetime collapses into itself. Here, the laws of physics as we know them cease to apply. Time slows dramatically near the event horizon due to extreme gravitational forces, a phenomenon predicted by Einstein's theory of general relativity. For an outside observer, someone falling into a black hole would appear frozen at the edge, their image redshifted and stretched infinitely as they approach the horizon. Yet, from the perspective of the person inside, time continues normally, or so it seems. This dissonance raises profound questions about the nature of time and existence. To understand how black holes warp time, let's delve into the mechanics of gravity. Massive objects like stars and planets bend spacetime around them, creating the effect we perceive as gravity. Black holes take this bending to extremes, curving spacetime so severely that it folds back on itself. Imagine spacetime as a rubber sheet stretched taut. A star creates a gentle dip, while a black hole punches a hole straight through. Near the event horizon, time dilation becomes extreme. Seconds stretch into years and moments feel eternal. This distortion suggests that black holes might act as natural time machines, allowing travelers to experience vastly different temporal flows compared to those far away. But what happens once you cross the event horizon? Theoretical models propose several possibilities. One idea is that black holes could connect distant parts of the universe, or even different universes, through wormholes. These hypothetical tunnels, often referred to as Einstein-Rosen bridges, would allow matter and information to traverse unimaginable distances instantaneously. Picture stepping into one end of a wormhole near Earth and emerging billions of light-years away, or perhaps millions of years in the past or future. While speculative, such scenarios align with solutions to Einstein's equations, though practical challenges remain insurmountable, for now. Let's pause here for a moment and reflect. Take a deep breath. Consider the implications of traveling through a black hole. Would you emerge unchanged, or would the journey alter your very essence? Some physicists speculate that crossing the event horizon could lead to spaghettification, a process where intense tidal forces stretch an object into long, thin strands. Others suggest that quantum effects might stabilize the interior, preserving travelers intact. Regardless of the outcome, venturing into a black hole represents the ultimate leap into the unknown, blurring the boundaries between science and philosophy. The philosophical dimensions of black holes extend far beyond their physical properties. They force us to confront existential questions about identity, mortality, and the limits of human knowledge. If time ceases to exist within a black hole, or if it loops endlessly, what does that mean for our sense of self? Are we defined by our experiences over time, or do we possess some timeless essence that persists beyond material constraints? These musings echo ancient myths of underworlds and afterlives, suggesting that humanity has always sought meaning in the face of oblivion. Now, let's consider the role of black holes in shaping cosmic evolution. Scientists believe that supermassive black holes reside at the centers of most galaxies, including our own Milky Way. Their immense gravity influences the formation of stars, planets, and even life itself. By distorting spacetime, black holes create conditions ripe for creation and destruction alike. In this way, they embody the paradoxical nature of existence, simultaneously destructive and generative, chaotic and harmonious. Without black holes, the universe as we know it might never have emerged. Interestingly, black holes also intersect with debates about free will and determinism. If everything that enters a black hole is irretrievably lost, crushed into the singularity, does that imply a deterministic fate? Or could quantum fluctuations introduce randomness, allowing for alternate outcomes? These uncertainties highlight the tension between order and chaos, echoing broader discussions about the nature of reality. Returning to science, researchers continue to study black holes using advanced tools like telescopes and particle accelerators. Observations of gravitational waves, ripples in spacetime caused by colliding black holes, provide direct evidence of their existence. Meanwhile, simulations attempt to model their interiors, shedding light on phenomena like Hawking radiation, which suggests that black holes may slowly evaporate over trillions of years. Each discovery brings us closer to understanding these cosmic enigmas, yet much remains shrouded in mystery. Before moving on, take another moment to reflect. Close your eyes if you'd like and visualize yourself approaching a black hole. Feel the gravitational pull growing stronger, warping your perception of time and space. Notice how the stars behind you stretch into streaks of light, distorted by the immense curvature of spacetime. Now ask yourself, would you dare step across the event horizon, surrendering to the unknown? Or does the thought of transcending time leave you longing for the familiarity of linear progression? With this image in mind, let's transition to the next stage of our exploration. While black holes offer tantalizing hints of transcendence, what happens when we confront the ultimate void, the timeless expanse beyond all boundaries? Join me as we journey into the infinite silence, seeking answers to the eternal question, what lies beyond? The timeless void, beyond the infinite. Imagine this. You're floating in an endless expanse, a realm devoid of light, sound, or sensation. There are no stars to guide you, no horizon to anchor your gaze, only an infinite void stretching infinitely in every direction. This is the timeless void, a place beyond time, space, and existence itself. It's a concept that defies description, yet it beckons us to ponder the ultimate question. What lies beyond the boundaries of everything we know? Let's journey into this enigmatic abyss and explore the mysteries of eternity. The timeless void represents the ultimate frontier, a state of being where time ceases to exist altogether. In this realm there is no past, present, or future, no sequence of events, no causality, no change. Everything simply is. Philosophers, mystics, and scientists have long speculated about such a state, often framing it as the ultimate truth beneath the veil of temporal reality. Some describe it as pure potentiality, a formless canvas upon which existence paints its fleeting stories. Others see it as the culmination of all things, the endpoint toward which everything inevitably flows. To understand the timeless void, we must first grapple with the limitations of human perception. Our minds are wired to process information sequentially, organizing experiences into a coherent timeline. Without this framework, consciousness struggles to make sense of reality. Yet, the timeless void transcends these constraints, existing outside the bounds of linear progression. It's akin to stepping out of a movie theater mid-film and realizing that the entire story, from opening scene to closing credits, already exists on the reel. From this vantage point, moments lose their individual significance, merging into a unified whole. Let's pause here for a moment and reflect. Take a deep breath. Consider what it would feel like to exist in a state without time. Would it bring peace, liberation from the relentless march of seconds and minutes? Or would it evoke terror, leaving you untethered from the rhythms that define life? The timeless void challenges our attachment to temporality, forcing us to confront the fragility of identity and meaning. Without time, who or what are we? The implications of the timeless void extend far beyond philosophical musings. They touch the very core of existence, raising questions about the nature of consciousness and the origins of the universe. Cosmologists theorize that before the Big Bang, the universe existed in a singularity, a point of infinite density in zero dimensions. This primordial state mirrors the timeless void, suggesting that all creation emerged from a formless, eternal source. Similarly, some interpretations of quantum mechanics propose that particles exist in multiple states simultaneously until observed, hinting at a deeper layer of reality untouched by time. Now, let's delve deeper into the emotional dimensions of the timeless void. Mystical traditions across cultures speak of encounters with this state, describing it as both terrifying and sublime. In Hindu philosophy, the concept of Brahman embodies the eternal, unchanging essence underlying all phenomena. Buddhist teachings emphasize the dissolution of ego and attachment, urging practitioners to embrace emptiness as the path to enlightenment. These perspectives resonate with modern accounts of near-death experiences, where individuals report stepping into a realm of boundless love and unity. While interpretations vary, the underlying theme remains consistent. The timeless void offers a glimpse of transcendence, dissolving the illusion of separation between self and cosmos. Interestingly, the timeless void also intersects with debates about free will and determinism. If time collapses entirely, do choices retain any significance? Or does the absence of sequence render action meaningless? Paradoxically, the timeless void may hold the key to resolving this tension. By transcending temporal boundaries, it reveals the interconnectedness of all things, suggesting that every decision, no matter how small, contributes to the tapestry of existence. In this light, freedom and fate become complementary forces, shaping reality in ways that defy conventional logic. Returning to science, researchers continue to probe the nature of the timeless void through mathematical models and theoretical frameworks. String theory posits the existence of higher dimensional spaces, where time operates differently, or not at all. These extra dimensions might explain phenomena like black holes, wormholes, and the origins of the universe itself. While speculative, such ideas offer tantalizing glimpses into realms inaccessible to ordinary perception. Each discovery brings us closer to understanding the fabric of reality, yet much remains shrouded in mystery. Before moving on, take another moment to reflect. Close your eyes if you'd like, and visualize yourself suspended in the timeless void. Feel the absence of time pressing gently against your awareness. Notice how thoughts dissolve, leaving only pure being. Now ask yourself, would you choose to linger here, embracing the serenity of eternity? Or does the thought of stepping outside time leave you yearning for the familiarity of flux? With this image in mind, let's transition to the next stage of our exploration. While the timeless void represents the ultimate unknown, it also invites us to reconsider our relationship with the present moment. Perhaps eternity isn't something we find out there, but rather something we cultivate within ourselves, by learning to dwell fully in the now. Join me as we return to the river of time, seeking solace in its ever-flowing currents. The illusion of now. Imagine this. You're sitting in a quiet room, the world around you seemingly frozen in stillness. The clock ticks steadily, marking each passing second. Yet, when you try to grasp the present moment, the elusive now, it slips through your fingers like sand. What exactly is now? Is it a fleeting instant that vanishes as soon as it arrives, or is it merely an illusion conjured by our minds? Let's unravel the enigma of the present moment and explore why the concept of now might be far more complex and illusory than it appears. The idea of the present moment feels intuitive. It's the point where past meets future, the razor-thin edge upon which existence balances. But neuroscience challenges this notion, revealing that what we perceive as now is anything but immediate. Our brains process sensory information with a slight delay, meaning the present we experience is already in the past by the time we become aware of it. For example, visual data takes milliseconds to travel from your eyes to your brain, while auditory signals require additional processing time. By the time your mind stitches these inputs together into a coherent perception, the actual moment has already passed. This raises unsettling questions. If now is always behind us, does it truly exist? To better understand this phenomenon, let's delve into how consciousness constructs the illusion of simultaneity. Imagine watching a fireworks display. You see the explosion and hear the accompanying boom, but sound travels slower than light, so the two events aren't actually synchronized. Your brain compensates for this discrepancy, aligning the visual and auditory cues to create the impression of unity. Similarly, when you touch a hot surface, nerve impulses take time to reach your brain, yet you feel the sensation instantly. These examples demonstrate that our perception of the present is a reconstruction, a simulation crafted by the brain to make sense of the world. Let's pause here for a moment and reflect. Take a deep breath. Consider the last time you tried to fully inhabit the present. Did it feel tangible, or did it dissolve the moment you focused on it? The paradox of now lies in its elusiveness. The harder we try to pin it down, the more it recedes, reminding us that the present is less a fixed point and more a fluid transition between memory and anticipation. This realization forces us to reconsider the nature of reality itself. If the present isn't real, or at least not as immediate as we believe, what does that mean for our sense of self and agency? The implications of the illusion of now extend beyond individual experience. They challenge our understanding of causality, free will, and even morality. If every decision we make is based on outdated information, can we truly claim autonomy over our actions? Or are we merely responding to stimuli that have already occurred, unaware of the lag between cause and effect? Philosophers argue that this temporal disconnect underscores the fragility of human control, suggesting that much of what we attribute to deliberate choice may instead be reflexive reaction. Now, let's consider the emotional dimensions of the illusion of now. Time often feels most vivid during moments of crisis or ecstasy, when adrenaline sharpens our awareness and slows subjective time. Conversely, periods of monotony blur together, making hours feel like minutes. This variability reveals how deeply intertwined emotion and temporality are. When we attempt to anchor ourselves in the present, emotions serve as both anchors and distortions, shaping our perception of duration and significance. Without the scaffolding of affective states, the present might lose all texture, becoming a featureless void. Interestingly, cultural and linguistic frameworks also influence how we conceptualize the present. Some languages lack grammatical tenses, treating past, present, and future as interchangeable aspects of experience. Others emphasize distinctions between completed and ongoing actions, reinforcing the importance of temporal boundaries. These variations highlight the extent to which now is a constructed concept, shaped by societal norms and cognitive biases. Without external markers to define it, the present risks dissolving entirely, leaving only a stream of perpetual becoming. Returning to science, researchers continue to investigate the mechanisms behind the illusion of now. Studies using advanced imaging techniques reveal that the brain operates on predictive models, anticipating incoming stimuli before they arrive. This anticipatory function allows us to navigate the world seamlessly but also introduces discrepancies between objective reality and subjective experience. For instance, experiments show that participants can misjudge the timing of events due to their brain's efforts to synchronize sensory data. While fascinating, these findings underscore the malleability of temporal perception, challenging notions of accuracy and reliability. Before moving on, take another moment to reflect. Close your eyes if you'd like and focus on the sensation of your breath. Notice how each inhale and exhale blurs into the next, creating a continuous flow rather than discrete instants. Now ask yourself, does the absence of a definitive now diminish the richness of experience, or does it enhance it by emphasizing connection over division? With this image in mind, let's transition to the next stage of our exploration. While the illusion of now destabilizes our grip on the present, it also invites us to embrace the fluidity of time. Perhaps the key to living fully lies not in capturing the moment but in surrendering to its ceaseless motion. Join me as we journey deeper into the currents of time, seeking harmony within its endless flow. Fractal time, infinite complexity within moments. Imagine this. You're staring at a snowflake under a magnifying glass, marveling at its intricate patterns. Each branch splits into smaller branches, which in turn divide further, creating an endless cascade of detail. Now, imagine that every moment in time is like that snowflake, an infinitely complex structure containing layers upon layers of experience, memory, and possibility. This is the concept of fractal time, where seconds stretch into eternities, and each instant holds the potential for infinite depth. Let's dive into this mind-bending idea and explore how time might be far richer and more mysterious than we ever imagined. Fractals are mathematical patterns that repeat at different scales, exhibiting self-similarity no matter how closely you examine them. From the branching veins of leaves to the swirling arms of galaxies, fractals permeate nature, revealing hidden orders within chaos. Applying this concept to time suggests that every second isn't just a singular unit but a microcosm of events, emotions, and connections. Picture zooming into a single moment, only to discover countless submoments nested within it, each teeming with significance. This perspective transforms our understanding of temporality, turning linear progression into an endlessly recursive tapestry. To grasp the implications of fractal time, let's consider everyday experiences through this lens. Take a simple act like sipping coffee in the morning. On the surface it seems mundane, a brief pause before starting your day. But delve deeper and you'll find layers of complexity, the warmth spreading through your hands, the aroma triggering memories of past mornings, the anticipation of caffeine sharpening your focus. Each sensation contains subtleties that unfold infinitely if you choose to pay attention. Fractal time invites us to slow down, to notice the nuances often overlooked in our rush toward the next task. Let's pause here for a moment and reflect. Take a deep breath. Consider the last time you truly savored a moment, perhaps watching a sunset or holding a loved one's hand. Did you feel the weight of eternity compressed into those fleeting seconds? Or did the richness of the experience slip away unnoticed, buried beneath distractions and routines? Fractal time challenges us to reclaim these moments, recognizing their infinite worth despite, or perhaps because of, their brevity. The philosophical dimensions of fractal time extend beyond individual perception. They suggest that even the smallest actions ripple outward, influencing larger systems in ways we may never fully comprehend. A single decision, a kind word, a missed opportunity, can reverberate across lifetimes, shaping destinies far removed from its origin. This interconnectedness mirrors the fractal principle of self-similarity, where patterns repeat at both micro and macro levels. In this light, every moment becomes a node in a vast network, linking personal experiences to universal truths. Now let's delve deeper into the emotional resonance of fractal time. Human beings crave meaning, seeking patterns and narratives to impose order on chaos. Yet life rarely adheres to neat arcs or resolutions. Fractal time offers an alternative framework, embracing ambiguity and complexity without sacrificing coherence. By acknowledging the infinite layers within each moment, we can find beauty in uncertainty, solace in imperfection. After all, perfection lies not in simplicity but in the harmonious interplay of countless elements. Interestingly, fractal time also intersects with debates about free will and determinism. If every moment contains infinite possibilities, does this imply greater agency, or less? On one hand, the boundless potential within each instant empowers us to shape outcomes through conscious choice. On the other hand, the sheer scale of variables reminds us of our limitations, forcing humility in the face of overwhelming complexity. This tension underscores the paradoxical nature of existence. Freedom and constraint coexist, intertwined like strands in a fractal web. Returning to science, researchers continue to uncover evidence of fractal-like structures in natural phenomena, from neural networks to weather systems. These discoveries hint at underlying principles governing reality itself, suggesting that fractal time may not be merely metaphorical but literal. For instance, quantum mechanics reveals probabilistic states existing simultaneously until observed, echoing the recursive logic of fractals. Similarly, chaos theory demonstrates how small changes can yield disproportionately large effects, a hallmark of fractal dynamics. Together, these insights deepen our appreciation for the elegance and mystery of temporal design. Before moving on, take another moment to reflect. Close your eyes if you'd like, and visualize yourself zooming into a single moment. See its contours expand, revealing hidden details, the texture of sound waves, the dance of photons, the whispers of thoughts barely formed. Now ask yourself, does the infinite complexity of fractal time inspire awe, or overwhelm? Can we embrace the vastness within each instant, finding joy in discovery rather than fear of incompleteness? With this image in mind, let's transition to the next stage of our exploration. While fractal time illuminates the depth within moments, it also raises questions about boundaries and limits. What happens when we step outside conventional frameworks altogether? Some philosophers argue that time doesn't exist, it's merely a construct of language. Could stripping away linguistic labels reveal new dimensions of reality? Join me as we venture into uncharted territories of thought. Time without language. Imagine this. You're standing in a quiet forest, the only sounds being the rustling of leaves and the distant chirping of birds. There are no clocks ticking, no calendars marking days, no words to describe past, present, or future. In this moment, stripped of linguistic constructs, how would you perceive time? Would it feel fluid and boundless or chaotic and disorienting? Let's explore the profound idea that time might not exist independently of language, that our very ability to conceptualize it hinges on the frameworks we use to articulate it. Language shapes thought, a principle known as linguistic relativism. Words don't just describe reality, they help construct it. When it comes to time, language provides a scaffolding that organizes fleeting moments into coherent sequences. For example, English speakers often think of time as linear, moving from left to right like text on a page. In contrast, some indigenous Australian languages describe time spatially, with events arranged based on their orientation relative to the speaker. These variations highlight how cultural and linguistic contexts influence temporal perception, raising the possibility that time itself may be culturally contingent rather than universally fixed. To better understand this relationship, let's consider what happens when language is removed from the equation. Imagine living without terms like yesterday or tomorrow, no way to categorize experiences into discrete units of time. Without these labels, would you still experience time as a sequence of events? Or would moments blur together, creating a seamless continuum of being? Anthropologists studying remote cultures have encountered communities where time is perceived differently, or seemingly absent altogether. Members of the Amazonian Amandawa tribe, for instance, lack specific words for time, and instead organize life around natural cycles, such as sunrise and harvest seasons. Their worldview challenges Western notions of temporality, suggesting that time isn't an inherent property of existence but a product of human invention. Let's pause here for a moment and reflect. Take a deep breath. Consider how deeply embedded language is in your daily experience of time. When planning your day, do you rely on phrases like, in an hour, or by Friday? Do you measure progress through milestones marked by dates and deadlines? Now imagine abandoning these constructs entirely. Would the absence of linguistic markers leave you adrift, untethered from structure? Or would it liberate you, allowing you to inhabit each moment fully without the weight of expectations? The implications of time without language extend far beyond individual cognition. They challenge foundational assumptions about history, memory, and identity. If time is constructed through language, then collective narratives, stories passed down through generations, play a crucial role in shaping shared realities. Histories become timelines, memories transform into chronologies, and identities crystallize around pivotal moments defined by temporal markers. Without these frameworks, how would societies preserve knowledge or navigate change? The loss of linguistic tools for discussing time could render certain aspects of human experience inaccessible, or perhaps reveal new ways of understanding them. Now, let's delve deeper into the emotional dimensions of time without language. Emotions themselves seem timeless, existing outside the constraints of past, present, and future. Think about nostalgia, the bittersweet longing for something lost, or hope, which projects desire onto an uncertain horizon. Both emotions transcend verbal boundaries, resonating directly with lived experience. Could stripping away linguistic constructs amplify these feelings, allowing us to connect more intimately with the essence of moments? Or would the absence of descriptive terms dull their impact, leaving us unable to fully process or share them? Interestingly, time without language also intersects with debates about consciousness and free will. If language imposes order on chaos, enabling us to make sense of cause and effect, what happens when that order dissolves? Some philosophers argue that without linguistic anchors, decision-making becomes instinctual rather than deliberative. Actions flow naturally from immediate stimuli, unencumbered by abstract concepts like consequence or legacy. This perspective suggests that freedom might flourish in the absence of linguistic constraints, not as deliberate choice but as spontaneous expression. Returning to science, researchers continue to investigate the interplay between language and cognition. Studies using neuroimaging techniques reveal that brain regions associated with language processing overlap significantly with those involved in temporal reasoning. This overlap hints at a symbiotic relationship, where linguistic abilities enhance, and perhaps even enable, our capacity to conceptualize time. For instance, experiments show that participants struggle to recall sequences accurately when deprived of linguistic cues, underscoring the integral role of language in organizing temporal data. Before moving on, take another moment to reflect. Close your eyes if you'd like, and visualize yourself existing in a world without words for time. Notice how sensations stretch and contract, defying conventional boundaries. Feel the rhythm of your heartbeat, the cadence of your breath, the ebb and flow of energy within your body. Now ask yourself, does the absence of linguistic labels diminish the richness of experience, or does it deepen it by emphasizing connection over division? With this image in mind, let's transition to the next stage of our exploration. While time without language strips away familiar frameworks, it also invites us to reconsider the role of intuition in shaping our understanding of existence. Perhaps beneath the layers of language lies a primal awareness, an unspoken attunement to the rhythms of life. Join me as we journey further into the mysteries of preverbal consciousness. When clocks break, the fragility of measured time. Imagine this: you wake up one morning to find your alarm clock silent, its digital display dark. The wall clock in your kitchen has stopped too, and your phone won't turn on. Outside, traffic lights blink erratically, and the hum of civilization seems unnervingly quiet. Without clocks to guide us, how would we navigate our days? What happens when the fragile systems that measure time break down, leaving us untethered from the rhythms they impose? Let's delve into the fragility of measured time and explore what lies beneath its orderly facade. Clocks are humanity's attempt to impose order on chaos. From sundials to atomic clocks, these devices have allowed us to divide existence into manageable units, seconds, minutes, hours, that dictate everything from work schedules to religious rituals. Yet, despite their precision, clocks remain vulnerable to malfunction, reminding us that our mastery over time is an illusion. A dead battery, a power outage, or even a solar flare can disrupt the delicate mechanisms that govern modern life, exposing the precariousness of our reliance on measured time. To better understand this dependence, let's examine how deeply embedded clocks are in our daily routines. Think about the last time you checked the time. Was it to meet a deadline, catch a train, or simply reassure yourself that you weren't running late? Each glance at a clock reinforces the belief that time is predictable, linear, and controllable. But when those clocks stop working, the illusion shatters. Suddenly, we're forced to rely on natural cues: the position of the sun, the rhythm of hunger pangs, the ebb and flow of energy within our bodies. These primal markers remind us that time existed long before humans began measuring it, and it will continue long after our tools falter. Let's pause here for a moment and reflect. Take a deep breath. Consider the last time you experienced a day without clocks. Did it feel liberating, freeing you from the tyranny of schedules and deadlines? Or did it evoke anxiety, leaving you adrift in an unstructured void? The fragility of measured time reveals not only our technological vulnerabilities but also our psychological dependencies. Clocks don't just tell us when to act. They shape how we think, creating artificial boundaries between moments that might otherwise blend seamlessly together. The implications of broken clocks extend far beyond individual inconvenience. They challenge societal structures built on temporal coordination. Imagine hospitals operating without precise timing for surgeries, airports managing flights without synchronized schedules, or financial markets trading stocks without timestamps. Chaos would ensue, highlighting how integral measured time is to the functioning of complex systems. This interdependence underscores both the brilliance and brittleness of human ingenuity. We've created tools that sustain civilization, yet those same tools leave us vulnerable to collapse if they fail. Now, let's consider the emotional dimensions of losing measured time. For many, clocks provide a sense of security, anchoring life in predictable patterns. When those anchors disappear, emotions like fear, frustration, or even exhilaration may arise. Some might feel liberated from the relentless march of seconds and minutes, embracing a more organic pace of living. Others might struggle with the uncertainty, yearning for the comfort of structure. This spectrum of reactions reflects the dual nature of measured time as both a tool for empowerment and a source of constraint. Interestingly, the fragility of measured time also intersects with debates about authenticity and presence. Philosophers argue that our obsession with quantifying time often distracts us from truly experiencing it. By constantly checking clocks, we fragment moments into tasks, reducing rich experiences to mere entries on a timetable. When clocks break, however, we're compelled to reconnect with the raw texture of existence, to notice the way sunlight filters through leaves, the cadence of conversation, the weight of silence. In this light, the breakdown of measured time becomes an opportunity to reclaim lost intimacy with the present. Returning to science, researchers continue to study the limitations of timekeeping technologies. Even the most advanced atomic clocks, which measure time based on the vibrations of cesium atoms, are subject to environmental factors like temperature fluctuations and electromagnetic interference. Moreover, quantum mechanics introduces inherent uncertainties, suggesting that perfect measurement may be fundamentally impossible. These findings remind us that while clocks approximate time, they can never fully capture its essence, a reminder of the gap between human constructs and ultimate reality. Before moving on, take another moment to reflect. Close your eyes if you'd like and visualize a world where all clocks have stopped. Notice how sounds shift, becoming softer and slower. Feel the absence of urgency pressing gently against your awareness. Now ask yourself, would you prefer the chaos of unmeasured time or the order imposed by clocks? Does the fragility of measured time diminish its value, or does it heighten our appreciation for its role in shaping civilization? With this image in mind, let's transition to the next stage of our exploration. While the fragility of measured time exposes our vulnerabilities, it also invites us to reconsider the balance between control and surrender. Perhaps true freedom lies not in mastering time but in learning to flow with its currents. Join me as we journey deeper into the paradoxes of temporality, seeking wisdom in the spaces between ticks. Memory as time's archive. Imagine this. You're sitting in a dimly lit room, flipping through an old photo album. Each faded picture stirs a cascade of emotions: laughter shared with friends, the bittersweet ache of goodbyes, the quiet warmth of moments now gone. These memories are more than fragments of the past. They are windows into time itself, preserving pieces of who you were and shaping who you've become. But what happens when these archives falter? What if memory, that fragile repository of time, begins to fade or distort? Let's explore how memory serves as both a keeper and creator of temporal experience. Memory is often described as time's archive, a vault where moments are stored for safekeeping. Yet, unlike physical archives, memories aren't static records. They're dynamic, malleable constructs shaped by emotion, context, and repetition. Neuroscientists have discovered that recalling a memory doesn't simply retrieve it intact. Instead, the act of remembering alters the memory itself. This process, known as reconsolidation, means that every time we revisit a moment, we rewrite it slightly, blending fact with interpretation, detail with imagination. In this way, memory becomes less a faithful recording device and more an ongoing narrative, constantly evolving over time. To better understand the role of memory in shaping our perception of time, let's consider its dual function: preservation and reconstruction. On one hand, memory allows us to hold on to experiences, anchoring us to moments that would otherwise slip away. It provides continuity, stitching together disparate events into a coherent life story. Without memory, we'd exist in a perpetual present, unable to reflect on lessons learned or anticipate future outcomes. On the other hand, memory also distorts reality, prioritizing certain details while erasing others. Emotionally charged events tend to stand out, while mundane moments blur into obscurity. This selective filtering shapes not only what we remember but how we interpret the passage of time itself. Let's pause here for a moment and reflect. Take a deep breath. Consider the last vivid memory that surfaced unexpectedly, perhaps triggered by a scent, a song, or a familiar place. How did it feel to step back into that moment, even fleetingly? Did it seem real, as though no time had passed at all? Or did it carry the faint haze of distance, reminding you that some things can never be fully reclaimed? Memory's power lies in its ability to transport us across time, yet it also reminds us of time's irreversibility. The implications of memory as time's archive extend far beyond individual experience. They touch the very fabric of identity, history, and collective consciousness. Personal memories form the foundation of selfhood, providing a sense of continuity amidst change. Shared memories, meanwhile, bind communities together, creating cultural narratives that transcend individual lifetimes. From oral traditions to written records, humanity has long relied on memory to preserve knowledge, pass down wisdom, and honor those who came before. Yet, these archives are inherently imperfect, shaped by biases, omissions, and reinterpretations. History itself is a tapestry woven from countless subjective threads, each colored by the lens of memory. Now, let's delve deeper into the emotional dimensions of memory. For many, memories are treasures, fragile relics of joy, love, and connection. But they can also be burdens, carrying the weight of regret, loss, or trauma. The same mechanism that preserves cherished moments can trap us in cycles of rumination, replaying painful events until they overshadow the present. Conversely, the erosion of memory, as seen in conditions like dementia, can sever ties to personal history, leaving individuals adrift in a sea of unfamiliarity. This fragility underscores the paradoxical nature of memory. It grounds us in time while simultaneously highlighting its impermanence. Interestingly, memory also intersects with debates about free will and determinism. If our actions are influenced by past experiences encoded in memory, how much agency do we truly possess? Are we prisoners of our own histories, constrained by patterns etched into neural pathways? Or does the reconstructive nature of memory offer opportunities for reinvention, allowing us to reshape our stories and, by extension, our futures? This tension between fate and freedom echoes broader existential questions, challenging us to reconcile the pull of the past with the promise of possibility. Returning to science, researchers continue to investigate the mechanisms behind memory formation and retrieval. Advanced imaging techniques reveal that memories are distributed across multiple brain regions, forming complex networks rather than isolated files. This interconnectedness explains why certain triggers, like a familiar smell or sound, can evoke vivid recollections, activating entire constellations of associated data. However, this complexity also makes memory vulnerable to interference, leading to phenomena like false memories, where fabricated details feel indistinguishable from reality. Such findings highlight the delicate balance between accuracy and creativity in human cognition. Before moving on, take another moment to reflect. Close your eyes if you'd like and visualize your most cherished memory. Notice the colors, sounds, textures, the sensory richness that brings it to life. Now ask yourself, how much of this memory is real and how much has been reshaped by time and emotion? Does the uncertainty diminish its value, or does it deepen its significance by revealing the interplay between fact and feeling? With this image in mind, let's transition to the next stage of our exploration. While memory anchors us to the past, anticipation propels us toward the future. Both functions rely on time's elasticity, stretching moments into eternity or compressing them into fleeting glimpses. Join me as we journey forward, exploring the psychology of looking ahead and the hopes that shape our temporal landscapes. Anticipation and the shape of tomorrow. Imagine this. You're standing at the edge of a vast, open field as dawn breaks over the horizon. The sky is painted in hues of gold and crimson, promising warmth after a long night. Your heart races with excitement, not because you know what lies ahead but precisely because you don't. This is anticipation, the electrifying force that propels us into the unknown, shaping our vision of tomorrow before it arrives. But how does anticipation influence our perception of time, and what happens when expectations meet reality? Let's explore the interplay between hope, imagination, and the malleable nature of the future. Anticipation is more than mere expectation, it's an act of creation. When we anticipate, we project ourselves into the future, crafting scenarios that blend memory, desire, and possibility. These mental rehearsals allow us to prepare for what might come, but they also shape how we experience time itself. Studies show that periods of anticipation often feel longer than those spent reflecting on the past. Waiting for a significant event, a reunion, a milestone, or even the resolution of uncertainty, can stretch seconds into hours, amplifying both excitement and anxiety. In this way, anticipation distorts temporal flow, making the present seem suspended while the future looms large. To better understand this phenomenon, let's consider its dual nature, constructive and destructive. On one hand, anticipation fuels motivation, driving us to take risks, set goals, and strive for growth. It transforms abstract possibilities into tangible paths, giving structure to otherwise formless futures. For example, envisioning success, whether in love, career, or personal development, provides a roadmap, guiding actions and decisions in the present. On the other hand, excessive anticipation can lead to disappointment if reality fails to match our projections. Overthinking outcomes may breed doubt, fear, or paralysis, turning hopeful anticipation into dread. This tension highlights the precarious balance between optimism and realism, reminding us that the future is shaped not only by external events but also by internal narratives. Let's pause here for a moment and reflect. Take a deep breath. Consider the last time you eagerly awaited something, a trip, a meeting, or perhaps just the arrival of a loved one. How did the wait feel? Did it heighten your appreciation for the moment when it finally arrived, or did prolonged anticipation dampen the experience? Anticipation's power lies in its ability to expand time emotionally, intensifying our connection to moments yet to unfold. However, it also reminds us of time's inherent unpredictability, challenging us to embrace uncertainty without losing sight of hope. The implications of anticipation extend far beyond individual psychology. They touch cultural, social, and technological realms, influencing everything from storytelling to innovation. Consider how societies use collective anticipation to navigate change. Holidays, elections, and milestones like New Year's Eve serve as shared markers, uniting people in their visions of what's to come. Similarly, advancements in science and technology often emerge from anticipatory thinking, imagining solutions to problems that haven't arisen yet. Yet, these forward-looking endeavors carry risks. Unrealistic expectations can lead to disillusionment, while overly optimistic forecasts may blind us to potential consequences. Balancing aspiration with pragmatism remains a perennial challenge. Now, let's delve deeper into the emotional dimensions of anticipation. At its core, anticipation is an expression of hope, a belief that the future holds promise despite the uncertainties of the present. This hope can manifest in countless ways: the thrill of planning a dream vacation, the nervous excitement of starting a new job, or the quiet longing for reconciliation after conflict. Each instance reflects a fundamental human drive, to reach beyond the known, to seek meaning in the unfolding of time. Yet, anticipation is also deeply personal, shaped by individual histories, values, and fears. What feels exhilarating to one person may evoke dread in another, underscoring the subjective nature of temporal experience. Interestingly, anticipation intersects with debates about free will and determinism. If our expectations influence our actions, and thus the course of events, does this imply greater agency over the future? Or are we merely projecting illusions onto an indifferent cosmos? Philosophers argue that anticipation reveals humanity's unique capacity to transcend immediate circumstances, imagining alternative realities and striving toward them. Whether or not these efforts yield desired results, the act of imagining itself alters our relationship with time, infusing it with purpose and direction. Returning to science, researchers continue to investigate the neurological underpinnings of anticipation. Brain imaging studies reveal that anticipating rewards activates regions associated with pleasure and motivation, releasing dopamine and reinforcing goal-oriented behavior. Conversely, anticipating threats engages areas linked to stress and vigilance, preparing the body for fight or flight responses. This duality underscores anticipation's adaptive role in survival, enabling us to navigate environments filled with both opportunities and dangers. However, this same mechanism can backfire, leading to chronic stress or impulsivity when expectations become misaligned with reality. Before moving on, take another moment to reflect. Close your eyes if you'd like, and visualize yourself stepping into the unknown. Picture the field stretching endlessly before you, dotted with landmarks representing dreams and aspirations. Now ask yourself, how much of your anticipation is rooted in certainty and how much in faith? Does the ambiguity of the future inspire courage, or does it leave you yearning for the comfort of predictability? With this image in mind, let's transition to the next stage of our exploration. While anticipation shapes our vision of tomorrow, reflection grounds us in the lessons of yesterday. Both functions rely on time's elasticity, stretching moments into eternity or compressing them into fleeting glimpses. Join me as we journey inward, exploring the interplay between memory and anticipation in shaping the contours of lived experience. Fatalism and the weight of inevitability. Imagine this. You're standing at the edge of a cliff, staring out at an endless expanse of water stretching to the horizon. The wind carries whispers that seem to echo from nowhere and everywhere at once. Whispers of choices already made, paths already taken, destinies already sealed. This is fatalism, the belief that everything in life unfolds according to an inexorable plan, leaving no room for deviation or escape. But what does it mean to live under the shadow of inevitability? Does the weight of predestination crush hope, or can it offer a strange kind of solace? Let's explore the paradoxical pull of fatalism and its profound impact on how we navigate time. Fatalism suggests that the future is fixed, a script written long before our arrival with every line predetermined and immutable. Whether framed as divine will, cosmic design, or the cold mechanics of determinism, fatalism posits that free will is an illusion, a comforting fiction we cling to amidst the vast machinery of causality. From this perspective, time becomes less a river flowing forward and more a tapestry woven in advance, each thread locked into place by forces beyond our control. Every decision you think you've made, every moment you believe you've shaped, was always destined to occur exactly as it did. To better understand the allure and burden of fatalism, let's examine its psychological dimensions. On one hand, fatalism offers relief from the overwhelming responsibility of choice. In a chaotic world where outcomes often feel uncertain, the idea that events are preordained can provide a sense of order and purpose. It reassures us that suffering isn't random but part of a larger narrative, one whose meaning may only become clear in hindsight. For some, this acceptance fosters resilience, allowing them to endure hardship with quiet grace. As philosopher Arthur Schopenhauer famously remarked, "A man can do what he wants but not want what he wants." If desire itself is fated, then struggle loses its sting, replaced by serene surrender. On the other hand, fatalism can also breed despair, stripping life of agency and urgency. If nothing we do truly matters, if all efforts are mere performances within a predetermined play, what incentive remains to strive, create, or connect? The weight of inevitability can paralyze, leaving individuals adrift in a sea of passivity. Consider the myth of Oedipus, who tried desperately to evade his prophesied fate only to fulfill it through his very attempts to escape. Such stories underscore the cruel irony of fatalism. Resistance often accelerates the inevitable, while acquiescence might have softened the blow. Let's pause here for a moment and reflect. Take a deep breath. Consider the last time you felt trapped by circumstances beyond your control, perhaps during a period of illness, loss, or failure. Did the thought of inevitability bring comfort, framing your experience as part of a grander design? Or did it deepen your frustration, making the struggle feel futile? Fatalism forces us to confront the tension between autonomy and submission, challenging us to reconcile the illusion of freedom with the specter of destiny. The implications of fatalism extend far beyond individual psychology. They shape cultural narratives, religious doctrines, and philosophical systems, influencing how societies interpret justice, morality, and human potential. Many faiths embrace aspects of fatalism, attributing ultimate authority to a higher power whose plans surpass mortal comprehension. Others reject it outright, championing free will as the cornerstone of ethical accountability. These divergent views highlight the centrality of fatalism in debates about existence itself. Are we architects of our own lives or merely actors following scripts written by unseen hands? Now, let's delve deeper into the emotional complexities of fatalism. At its core, fatalism reflects humanity's longing for certainty in an uncertain world. Yet, it also exposes the fragility of that longing. To accept inevitability is to acknowledge that much of life lies outside our grasp, a humbling realization that can evoke both awe and anguish. Some find beauty in this surrender, seeing it as liberation from the relentless pursuit of control. Others resist, clinging to the belief that even small acts of defiance can alter the course of destiny. This duality mirrors the broader human condition, caught between yearning for mastery and embracing vulnerability. Interestingly, fatalism intersects with debates about time structure. If the future is predetermined, does time flow linearly, or does it exist all at once like pages bound in a book? Physicists exploring block universe theory propose that past, present, and future coexist simultaneously, suggesting that fatalism aligns with certain scientific interpretations of reality. However, quantum mechanics introduces elements of unpredictability, hinting at randomness within the fabric of existence. Together, these frameworks blur the boundary between fate and chance, complicating our understanding of inevitability. Returning to science, researchers continue to investigate the cognitive biases that reinforce fatalistic thinking. Studies show that humans have a tendency to perceive patterns even in randomness, seeking coherence in chaos. This inclination toward pattern recognition may explain why fatalism resonates so deeply. It imposes structure where none exists, transforming ambiguity into clarity. While adaptive in moderation, excessive reliance on fatalism can distort perception, leading individuals to overlook opportunities for change or growth. Before moving on, take another moment to reflect. Close your eyes if you'd like, and visualize yourself standing at the crossroads of choice and inevitability. Picture two paths stretching before you, one illuminated by possibility, the other shrouded in shadow. Now ask yourself, which path feels heavier, the one laden with uncertainty or the one weighted by certainty? Does the absence of choice liberate you or does it leave you yearning for the thrill of risk? With this image in mind, let's transition to the next stage of our exploration. While fatalism emphasizes the unyielding march of destiny, creativity celebrates the fluidity of imagination. Both forces shape our relationship with time, offering contrasting visions of what it means to be human. Join me as we journey into the realm of artistic expression, where moments are stretched, reshaped, and reimagined into something timeless. Quantum indeterminacy, freedom and chaos. Imagine this. You're standing in a pitch-black room, illuminated only by the faint glow of a single particle suspended midair. Suddenly, it begins to flicker, not because of any external force but due to its own inherent unpredictability. This is quantum indeterminacy, the principle that at the smallest scales of reality, outcomes are not predetermined but emerge spontaneously from a sea of probabilities. It's a concept that challenges our classical understanding of causality and order, offering a tantalizing glimpse of freedom within chaos. But what does it mean for human agency, and for time itself, when even the universe refuses to follow a script? Let's dive into the heart of quantum uncertainty and explore how randomness might hold the key to liberation. Quantum mechanics has revolutionized our view of reality, revealing a world far stranger than anything imagined by classical physics. At its core lies Heisenberg's uncertainty principle, which states that certain pairs of properties, such as position and momentum, cannot be simultaneously known with absolute precision. This isn't a limitation of measurement tools. Rather, it reflects the fundamental fuzziness of nature at microscopic levels. Particles exist in superpositions, occupying multiple states at once until observed or measured. Only then do they collapse into a single outcome, chosen randomly from among the possibilities. In this way, the quantum realm defies deterministic laws, introducing an element of spontaneity into existence itself. To better understand the implications of quantum indeterminacy, let's consider how it contrasts with Newtonian determinism, the idea that the future is entirely predictable if we know the initial conditions of all particles. Determinism paints a picture of a clockwork universe, where every event unfolds according to fixed rules. Quantum mechanics shatters this image, replacing rigid gears with probabilistic clouds. Instead of marching along predetermined paths, particles dance erratically, their movements guided by chance rather than necessity. This shift suggests that the universe is less like a machine and more like an improvisational performance, where creativity thrives on unpredictability. Let's pause here for a moment and reflect. Take a deep breath. Consider the last time you felt truly free, unburdened by expectations, obligations, or fears. Was it during a moment of spontaneous decision-making, when you acted without overthinking the consequences? Or perhaps during a creative endeavor, where inspiration seemed to flow effortlessly? Quantum indeterminacy mirrors these experiences, reminding us that freedom often emerges from letting go of control. By embracing uncertainty, we open ourselves to infinite possibilities, unshackling from the chains of inevitability. The philosophical dimensions of quantum indeterminacy extend far beyond particle physics. They challenge deeply ingrained notions of fate, free will, and morality. If the universe operates through randomness, does this imply greater autonomy for human beings? Or does it render choice meaningless, reducing life to a series of arbitrary events? Philosophers grapple with these questions, recognizing that quantum mechanics introduces a paradoxical duality. While individual particles behave unpredictably, large-scale systems governed by statistical averages exhibit remarkable stability. This interplay between chaos and order mirrors the human condition, where personal freedom coexists with collective constraints. Now, let's delve deeper into the emotional resonance of quantum indeterminacy. For many, the idea of living in a fundamentally uncertain universe evokes both exhilaration and unease. On one hand, indeterminacy offers a reprieve from fatalism, affirming that not everything is preordained. Life becomes an unfolding mystery, rich with potential and surprise. On the other hand, it forces us to confront the absence of ultimate guarantees, leaving us vulnerable to risk and loss. Yet, isn't it precisely this vulnerability that makes life precious? The same unpredictability that unsettles us also fuels curiosity, discovery, and growth. Interestingly, quantum indeterminacy intersects with debates about time structure. Traditional views of time assume a linear progression, where cause precedes effect in an orderly sequence. However, quantum phenomena suggest that causality may be far more fluid. Experiments involving entangled particles demonstrate correlations that defy conventional explanations, hinting at non-local connections transcending spatial and temporal boundaries. Could time itself be subject to the same probabilistic principles that govern matter and energy? If so, then moments aren't merely sequential, they're woven together in a dynamic tapestry of interdependence, where past, present, and future influence each other in ways we're only beginning to comprehend. Returning to science, researchers continue to probe the mysteries of quantum indeterminacy using cutting-edge technologies. Advances in quantum computing leverage superposition and entanglement to solve problems previously deemed intractable. Meanwhile, interpretations of quantum mechanics, such as the many-worlds hypothesis, propose that every possible outcome occurs in parallel universes, branching off endlessly. While speculative, these theories underscore the radical implications of indeterminacy, suggesting that reality is far richer and more complex than our senses perceive. Before moving on, take another moment to reflect. Close your eyes if you'd like, and visualize yourself stepping into a realm of pure possibility. Picture particles swirling around you, their trajectories shifting unpredictably, creating patterns that dissolve as quickly as they form. Now ask yourself, does the absence of certainty inspire courage, or does it leave you yearning for the comfort of predictability? Can you find beauty in the chaos, trusting that meaning emerges from the interplay of chance and choice? With this image in mind, let's transition to the next stage of our exploration. While quantum indeterminacy celebrates the power of randomness, art harnesses the tension between order and chaos to create enduring expressions of human experience. Both forces shape our relationship with time, transforming fleeting moments into something timeless. Join me as we journey into the realm of artistic creation, where imagination bridges the gap between the seen and unseen. Grief and the elasticity of time. Imagine this. You're sitting alone in a quiet room, surrounded by remnants of someone who is no longer there. A sweater draped over a chair, an unfinished book on the table, the faint scent of their favorite perfume lingering in the air. The clock ticks steadily, marking each passing second, yet time feels anything but linear. Moments stretch into hours, days blur together, and memories surge unpredictably, pulling you back to times that feel as vivid as the present. This is grief, the raw, unrelenting force that distorts time, stretching it thin or compressing it tightly, leaving you adrift in its elastic embrace. Let's explore how grief reshapes our perception of time and what it reveals about the human heart's capacity to endure loss. Grief is not just an emotional state, it is a temporal one. When we lose someone or something deeply cherished, time becomes malleable, bending under the weight of absence. Psychologists describe this phenomenon as temporal disintegration, where the usual flow of past, present, and future fractures. Memories intrude upon the now, making the past feel immediate, while the future seems impossibly distant or non-existent. For those grieving, moments of acute pain can stretch endlessly, creating a sensation of being trapped in an eternal present. Conversely, entire weeks or months may pass unnoticed, swallowed by numbness or exhaustion. To better understand this elasticity, let's consider the dual nature of grief's impact on time. On one hand, grief slows time down, amplifying the intensity of every heartbeat, every breath. A single day without the person you love can feel like an eternity, each moment heavy with longing and sorrow. This temporal dilation allows memories to flood in unbidden. Fragments of laughter, shared silences, whispered promises, all rendered achingly real by the stark contrast between presence and absence. It's as though the mind refuses to let go, clinging desperately to fragments of the past in an effort to bridge the chasm left behind. On the other hand, grief also accelerates time, erasing boundaries between days, seasons, even years. In the haze of mourning, routines dissolve, and ordinary markers of time, birthdays, anniversaries, holidays, lose their significance. Without the rhythm provided by the person who once anchored your world, time becomes a shapeless void, indifferent to milestones or meaning. This acceleration mirrors the way grief strips life of structure, leaving survivors navigating a landscape bereft of familiar landmarks. Let's pause here for a moment and reflect. Take a deep breath. Consider the last time you experienced profound loss, whether through death, separation, or another form of absence. How did time feel during those early days of grief? Did moments drag painfully, each second weighted with emotion? Or did time vanish altogether, leaving you startled to find days had passed without notice? Grief's power lies in its ability to transform time itself, rendering it both unbearable and elusive. The implications of grief's temporal distortions extend far beyond individual experience. They challenge societal norms around mourning, which often prescribe timelines for recovery. Give it 6 months, time heals all wounds. Yet grief resists such neat compartmentalization. Its effects ripple outward indefinitely, shaping identities, relationships, and legacies long after the initial shock subsides. Cultures respond differently to this reality, some encouraging public displays of mourning, others emphasizing private reflection. Regardless of approach, grief remains universal, a testament to the depth of human connection and the cost of severance. Now let's delve deeper into the emotional dimensions of grief. At its core, grief is an act of love stretched across time. It's the refusal to accept finality, the determination to keep the departed alive in memory, even if only fleetingly. This paradoxical tension, between holding on and letting go, defines the grieving process. Some find solace in rituals, creating spaces where time slows enough to honor the lost. Others seek distraction, immersing themselves in activity to outrun the relentless march of memory. Both approaches reflect the same truth. Grief demands renegotiation with time itself, forcing us to adapt to its altered rhythms. Interestingly, grief intersects with debates about memory and anticipation. Just as memory preserves fragments of the past, grief projects them into the future, coloring hopes and plans with shades of absence. Holidays once anticipated with joy may now evoke dread, while simple pleasures carry echoes of shared experiences. Anticipation, too, transforms under grief's influence, becoming tinged with melancholy. Each milestone reached without the loved one underscores the permanence of loss, reminding us that time moves forward whether we are ready or not. Returning to science, researchers continue to investigate the neurological and psychological effects of grief. Studies reveal that prolonged mourning can alter brain function, disrupting circuits responsible for processing time, emotion, and memory. Regions associated with attachment light up unpredictably, triggered by sensory cues linked to the deceased. These findings highlight the biological basis of grief's temporal distortions, explaining why time feels so fragmented during periods of intense sorrow. Yet they also underscore resilience, the brain's remarkable ability to adapt, heal, and integrate loss into the fabric of identity. Before moving on, take another moment to reflect. Close your eyes if you'd like, and visualize yourself standing at the edge of a vast ocean. Waves crash against the shore, rhythmic yet unpredictable, mirroring the ebb and flow of grief. Now ask yourself, how do you navigate the elasticity of time during moments of loss? Do you resist it, clinging to routines and schedules? Or do you surrender, allowing grief to reshape your relationship with time until healing begins? With this image in mind, let's transition to the next stage of our exploration. While grief stretches and compresses time, creativity offers a way to reimagine it, to mold chaos into coherence, pain into purpose. Both forces shape our understanding of existence, transforming fleeting moments into enduring expressions of humanity. Join me as we journey into the realm of artistic creation, where time bends to the will of imagination. Collective consciousness and shared time. Imagine this. You're standing in the middle of a bustling city square at sunset, surrounded by strangers who seem to move in perfect harmony. The hum of conversations blends with the distant chime of a clock tower marking the hour. Though you've never met these people, you feel an inexplicable connection, a shared rhythm that transcends individual thoughts or actions. This is collective consciousness, the idea that humanity's minds are interconnected, weaving together into a tapestry of shared experiences, memories, and temporal awareness. But what does it mean to exist within this communal flow of time? And how does our sense of belonging to something greater shape our perception of existence itself? Let's explore the profound interplay between collective consciousness and shared time. Collective consciousness refers to the shared beliefs, values, emotions, and memories that bind societies together. It's the invisible thread connecting us across distances, cultures, and generations, creating a unified field of human experience. When we participate in rituals, celebrate holidays, or mourn collective tragedies, we tap into this shared reservoir of meaning. These moments often carry a heightened sense of temporality. Time seems to slow down during periods of communal reflection, while joyous celebrations accelerate it, making hours pass like minutes. In both cases, the boundaries between self and other dissolve, leaving us attuned to a deeper, collective pulse. To better understand this phenomenon, let's examine how collective consciousness shapes our relationship with time. On one hand, shared temporal markers, calendars, clocks, historical events, create a framework that synchronizes individual lives. Consider New Year's Eve, when millions around the world count down the final seconds of the year together. Despite vast differences in location, language, and culture, participants share a singular moment, united by the anticipation of renewal. Such synchronized experiences remind us that time isn't merely personal, it's also social, shaped by the rhythms of community life. On the other hand, collective consciousness can distort time on a grand scale, altering how entire societies perceive the passage of years, decades, or centuries. For example, periods of crisis, wars, pandemics, natural disasters, often compress time, making months feel like years as communities rally to survive. Conversely, eras of stability and prosperity may stretch time, fostering a sense of permanence and continuity. These shifts reflect the dynamic nature of collective consciousness, which evolves alongside the challenges and triumphs faced by groups over time. Let's pause here for a moment and reflect. Take a deep breath. Think about a recent event that brought people together, perhaps a global celebration, a moment of collective grief, or even a viral trend that swept across social media. How did it feel to be part of something larger than yourself? Did time seem to expand or contract during those moments? Collective consciousness amplifies our awareness of interconnectedness, reminding us that no single person exists in isolation. Even in solitude, we carry fragments of shared stories, dreams, and histories within us. The implications of collective consciousness extend far beyond individual psychology. They touch political systems, cultural traditions, and technological advancements, influencing how societies navigate change and preserve identity. From ancient myths passed down orally to modern digital networks transmitting information instantaneously, humanity has always sought ways to bridge divides and foster unity. Yet, this interconnectedness also raises questions about autonomy and conformity. How much of our sense of self is truly ours, and how much is shaped by the collective? Is there freedom in belonging, or does it risk erasing individuality? Now, let's delve deeper into the emotional dimensions of collective consciousness. At its core, this concept reflects humanity's longing for connection, a desire to transcend the limitations of solitary existence and merge with something eternal. Whether through religion, art, or activism, individuals seek out opportunities to align their personal narratives with broader movements. This alignment offers solace, purpose, and resilience, particularly during times of uncertainty. However, it also demands sacrifice, requiring individuals to subsume their unique perspectives into a larger whole. Balancing these dual impulses, unity and diversity, is central to understanding the human condition. Interestingly, collective consciousness intersects with debates about time structure. If time is experienced collectively, does this imply a universal timeline accessible to all? Or do different groups inhabit distinct temporal frameworks, shaped by their unique histories and priorities? Anthropologists studying indigenous cultures have documented alternative conceptions of time, where cyclical patterns replace linear progression. These findings suggest that collective consciousness isn't monolithic but multifaceted, reflecting the rich variety of human experience. Each culture contributes its own thread to the global tapestry, enriching our understanding of time's complexity. Returning to science, researchers continue to investigate the mechanisms behind collective consciousness using tools like neuroscience and sociology. Studies reveal that group activities, singing, dancing, meditating, can synchronize brainwaves among participants, creating a literal mind meld that fosters empathy and cooperation. Similarly, social media platforms serve as virtual arenas where collective consciousness emerges organically, driven by shared hashtags, memes, and movements. While technology accelerates this process, it also introduces new challenges, such as echo chambers and misinformation, which threaten to fragment rather than unify. Before moving on, take another moment to reflect. Close your eyes if you'd like, and visualize yourself standing at the center of a vast web of light, each strand connecting you to others across space and time. Now ask yourself, what role do you play in the collective consciousness of your era? Do you contribute to unity, fostering connection and understanding? Or do you resist homogenization, championing individuality and difference? Both approaches are vital, shaping the evolving narrative of humanity. With this image in mind, let's transition to the next stage of our exploration. While collective consciousness binds us together, creativity allows us to reimagine and reshape the shared fabric of time. Through art, innovation, and imagination, individuals leave indelible marks on the collective tapestry, transforming fleeting moments into enduring legacies. Join me as we journey into the realm of artistic expression, where time bends to the will of visionaries. Mystical realms beyond time. Imagine this. You're standing at the threshold of a shimmering portal, its surface rippling like liquid light. As you step through, the familiar rhythms of time dissolve around you, replaced by an eternal now, a realm where past, present, and future coexist in perfect harmony. This is the mystical dimension beyond time, a space unbound by linear progression, where existence stretches infinitely in all directions. It's a place whispered about in ancient texts, meditative visions, and near-death experiences, a timeless expanse that defies logic yet beckons seekers to explore its mysteries. Let's journey into these mystical realms and uncover what lies beyond the constraints of time. Mystical traditions across cultures describe transcendent states of being that transcend ordinary perception. In Hindu philosophy, this state is referred to as turiya, the fourth level of consciousness beyond waking, dreaming, and deep sleep, a domain of pure awareness untethered from temporal boundaries. Similarly, Sufi mystics speak of fana, the annihilation of ego and immersion into divine unity, where time ceases to exist. These accounts resonate with modern narratives of spiritual awakenings and altered states induced by meditation, psychedelics, or spontaneous epiphanies. What unites them is the sense of stepping outside the river of time, entering a boundless ocean of eternity. To better understand these mystical realms, let's consider their defining characteristics. First, they are often described as spaces of profound stillness and clarity, where the frenetic pace of everyday life gives way to an overwhelming sense of peace. Without the ticking clock of seconds, minutes, and hours, individuals report feeling liberated from the pressures of deadlines and aging, a weightlessness that allows them to simply be. Second, these realms reveal interconnectedness on a cosmic scale. Boundaries between self and other dissolve, leaving behind a unified field of existence where all beings and moments merge into one. This dissolution challenges the illusion of separateness, affirming humanity's place within a greater whole. Let's pause here for a moment and reflect. Take a deep breath. Consider the last time you felt truly present, untethered from thoughts of the past or anxieties about the future. Perhaps it was during a sunrise, a moment of prayer, or a quiet walk in nature. Now, imagine extending that sensation indefinitely, stretching it across eternity. Would you embrace the serenity of timeless existence, or would the absence of change leave you yearning for the dynamism of temporal flow? Mystical realms invite us to confront these questions, challenging our attachment to the fleeting nature of human experience. The implications of mystical realms extend far beyond individual enlightenment. They offer insights into the fundamental nature of reality itself, suggesting that time may be an illusion, a construct imposed by limited human perception rather than an intrinsic property of existence. Quantum physics hints at similar possibilities, proposing that particles exist simultaneously in multiple states until observed, echoing the nonlinear simultaneity described in mystical accounts. Could science and spirituality converge in their understanding of time, revealing a shared truth beneath their respective languages? Now, let's delve deeper into the emotional dimensions of mystical realms. For many, accessing these dimensions evokes awe, wonder, and reverence, emotions that arise when confronted with something vastly greater than oneself. Yet, they can also evoke fear, particularly for those unprepared to relinquish control or identity. The dissolution of ego, a hallmark of mystical experiences, can feel like death itself, stripping away the layers of personality and habit that define daily life. However, those who surrender fully often describe emerging transformed, infused with a renewed sense of purpose and connection. Interestingly, mystical realms intersect with debates about free will and determinism. If time collapses entirely in these states, do choices retain any significance? Or does the absence of sequence render action meaningless? Paradoxically, mystical realms may hold the key to resolving this tension. By transcending temporal boundaries, they reveal the interconnectedness of all things, suggesting that every decision, no matter how small, contributes to the tapestry of existence. In this light, freedom and fate become complementary forces, shaping reality in ways that defy conventional logic. Returning to science, researchers continue to probe the neurological and psychological underpinnings of mystical experiences. Studies using brain imaging techniques reveal heightened activity in regions associated with introspection and decreased activity in areas linked to spatial awareness, creating a sense of boundlessness. Psychedelic substances such as psilocybin and DMT have been shown to induce mystical states characterized by ego dissolution and timelessness. While intriguing, these findings underscore the complexity of translating subjective experiences into objective data, reminding us that some truths may remain forever ineffable. Before moving on, take another moment to reflect. Close your eyes if you'd like, and visualize yourself stepping into the shimmering portal described earlier. Feel the absence of time pressing gently against your awareness. Notice how memories and anticipations dissolve, leaving only the present moment stretched infinitely wide. Now ask yourself, would you willingly surrender to this state, knowing it offers clarity and connection beyond ordinary comprehension? Or would the loss of familiar temporal markers feel too unsettling to bear? With this image in mind, let's transition to the next stage of our exploration. While mystical realms provide glimpses of eternity, art serves as a bridge between the temporal and the timeless, capturing fragments of infinity within finite expressions. Both forces shape our relationship with time, transforming fleeting moments into enduring legacies. Join me as we journey into the realm of artistic creation, where imagination bends the arc of time to create beauty that endures. Reverse causality, effects before causes. Imagine this. You wake up one morning to find a letter on your desk written in your own handwriting, but you have no memory of writing it. The letter contains detailed instructions that guide you through the day, leading to an outcome you couldn't possibly have foreseen. By following its guidance, events unfold exactly as described, leaving you to wonder, did the future somehow reach back to influence the past? This is the enigma of reverse causality, the mind-bending idea that effects can precede their causes. Let's dive into this paradoxical concept and explore how flipping the arrow of time challenges our understanding of reality. Reverse causality defies the foundational principle of cause and effect that governs classical physics. In traditional models, time flows linearly, causes occur first, setting off chains of events that culminate in effects. However, certain interpretations of quantum mechanics suggest that this sequence may not always hold true. For instance, experiments involving delayed choice setups demonstrate that particles can seemingly choose their behavior based on measurements made after they've already passed through a system. It's as though the act of observation retroactively determines what happened earlier, a phenomenon Einstein famously referred to as spooky action at a distance. To better understand reverse causality, let's examine its implications across different domains. On a philosophical level, it raises profound questions about free will and determinism. If effects can precede causes, does this imply that the future is already written, influencing the present from beyond the horizon of our awareness? Or does reverse causality introduce a new kind of agency, allowing us to shape the past through actions taken in the present? These paradoxes blur the boundaries between choice and inevitability, challenging us to reconsider the nature of temporal flow itself. Let's pause here for a moment and reflect. Take a deep breath. Consider the last time you felt as though fate had intervened in your life, perhaps through a coincidence so improbable it seemed orchestrated. How did you interpret that moment? Was it evidence of predestination or simply randomness masquerading as meaning? Reverse causality amplifies these uncertainties, suggesting that the line between cause and effect may be far more porous than we assume. The scientific dimensions of reverse causality are equally intriguing. Researchers exploring quantum entanglement have uncovered phenomena that defy conventional explanations. When two particles become entangled, changes to one instantly affect the other, regardless of distance. A process Albert Einstein dismissed as impossible due to its violation of relativistic principles. Yet, experiments consistently confirm this non-locality, hinting at connections that transcend spatial and temporal constraints. Some physicists speculate that time itself might operate bidirectionally at quantum scales, with information flowing both forward and backward along the timeline. Now, let's delve deeper into the emotional resonance of reverse causality. For many, the idea of effects preceding causes evokes a mix of wonder and unease. On one hand, it offers a tantalizing glimpse of hidden orders beneath the surface of reality, a reminder that the universe is far stranger and more interconnected than we perceive. On the other hand, it undermines our sense of control, suggesting that outcomes may be shaped by forces outside our immediate grasp. This tension reflects humanity's enduring fascination with destiny versus autonomy. Are we architects of our lives or merely actors following scripts written in advance? Interestingly, reverse causality intersects with debates about memory and anticipation. If the future can influence the past, then memories might serve not only as records of what has happened but also as blueprints for what will happen. Similarly, anticipatory feelings, such as déjà vu or premonitions, may represent glimpses of reverse causal loops, where future events ripple backward through time to leave faint impressions on the present. These possibilities challenge the notion of time as a unidirectional stream, proposing instead a multidimensional web where moments interact dynamically across temporal planes. Returning to science, researchers continue to probe the mechanisms behind reverse causality using advanced experimental designs. One notable example involves Wheeler's delayed choice experiment, which demonstrates that light behaves differently depending on whether a measurement is made before or after it passes through a beam splitter. Such findings suggest that particles don't settle into definitive states until observed, an unsettling implication that undermines the objective reality of time. While speculative, these studies highlight the radical potential of quantum mechanics to reshape our understanding of existence. Before moving on, take another moment to reflect. Close your eyes if you'd like, and visualize yourself standing at the intersection of two timelines, one flowing forward, the other backward. Picture streams of light crisscrossing around you, carrying fragments of past and future alike. Now ask yourself, would you embrace the uncertainty of living in a world where cause and effect intertwine unpredictably? Or would the loss of clear boundaries leave you yearning for the simplicity of linear progression? With this image in mind, let's transition to the next stage of our exploration. While reverse causality challenges the stability of temporal frameworks, art provides a space to reimagine and reinterpret them. Through creative expression, we can bend the rules of time, crafting narratives that defy logic yet resonate deeply with human experience. Join me as we journey into the realm of artistic creation, where imagination transcends the limits of cause and effect. Parallel timelines in the multiverse. Imagine this. You're standing at a crossroads, but instead of choosing one path, you take them all, simultaneously. In one reality, you turn left and embark on an adventure that changes your life forever. In another, you turn right, leading to a quiet, predictable existence. Each decision spawns a new timeline, branching off into infinite possibilities, each as real and vivid as the next. This is the multiverse, a sprawling expanse of parallel timelines where every choice, every chance event, every quantum fluctuation splits reality into countless versions of itself. Let's journey into this kaleidoscopic realm and explore how the multiverse redefines our understanding of time, identity, and existence. The concept of the multiverse arises from various scientific theories and philosophical musings, most notably quantum mechanics and string theory. According to the many-worlds interpretation (MWI) of quantum mechanics, whenever a particle has multiple possible states, the universe splits into separate branches, each corresponding to one outcome. For example, if a photon can pass through either slit A or slit B in a double-slit experiment, two universes emerge, one where it passes through A and another where it passes through B. Extrapolated to human experience, this means that every decision you make creates alternate realities, each playing out its own unique story. The result is a mind-boggling tapestry of timelines, where every what-if scenario unfolds somewhere. To better understand the implications of parallel timelines, let's consider their impact on individual identity. If there are infinite versions of you scattered across the multiverse, who, or what, is the real you? One interpretation suggests that consciousness is confined to a single timeline, experiencing only one version of events at a time. Another posits that consciousness could theoretically traverse these timelines, allowing glimpses of alternate lives or even deliberate shifts between them. These ideas blur the lines between selfhood and multiplicity, challenging the notion of a singular, cohesive identity. Instead, you become a constellation of selves, each navigating their own corner of the multiverse. Let's pause here for a moment and reflect. Take a deep breath. Consider the roads not taken in your own life, the job you didn't apply for, the relationship you let slip away, the risks you hesitated to take. Now imagine those choices unfolding in parallel worlds, each version of you living out the consequences of decisions you never made. Would you envy those alternate selves, or would you feel grateful for the path you chose? The multiverse invites us to embrace the full spectrum of possibility, recognizing that failure in one timeline might lead to triumph in another, and vice versa. The philosophical dimensions of parallel timelines extend far beyond personal reflection. They touch on questions of morality, free will, and destiny. If every action spawns multiple outcomes, does responsibility still hold meaning? Can we be held accountable for choices when their alternatives play out elsewhere, potentially yielding better results? Conversely, does the existence of infinite timelines liberate us from regret, knowing that somewhere, somehow things worked out differently? These paradoxes highlight the tension between accountability and absolution, reminding us that freedom comes with complexity. Now, let's delve deeper into the emotional resonance of the multiverse. For many, the idea of infinite timelines evokes both exhilaration and unease. On one hand, it offers comfort, suggesting that no opportunity is truly lost, that somewhere, a version of you seized every chance and lived without fear. On the other hand, it amplifies existential dread, confronting us with the overwhelming vastness of possibility. How do we reconcile the knowledge that our lives are just one thread in an endless web of narratives? Do we find solace in the diversity of experiences, or does the thought of infinite alternatives leave us paralyzed by indecision? Interestingly, parallel timelines intersect with debates about memory and anticipation. If alternate versions of ourselves exist in different timelines, could they influence our thoughts and feelings in subtle ways? Some interpret déjà vu or dreams of unfamiliar places as echoes from parallel lives, fleeting glimpses of paths untaken. Similarly, anticipatory emotions, such as longing or dread, might stem from subconscious awareness of alternate futures waiting to unfold. These connections suggest that the multiverse isn't merely a theoretical construct but a dynamic interplay shaping our inner landscapes. Returning to science, researchers continue to investigate the mechanisms behind parallel timelines using mathematical models and experimental frameworks. String theory, for instance, proposes that the fabric of spacetime consists of tiny vibrating strings whose configurations determine the properties of particles, and, by extension, the structure of reality. Different vibrational patterns give rise to distinct universes within a larger multiverse, each governed by its own set of physical laws. While speculative, these theories underscore the radical potential of the multiverse to reshape our understanding of existence. Before moving on, take another moment to reflect. Close your eyes if you'd like, and visualize yourself standing at the nexus of countless branching paths. Picture streams of light radiating outward, each carrying a fragment of your identity into a unique timeline. Now ask yourself, would you want to explore these alternate lives, seeking answers to questions left unresolved in your current reality? Or does the thought of infinite possibilities overwhelm you, leaving you yearning for the simplicity of a single linear narrative? With this image in mind, let's transition to the next stage of our exploration. While parallel timelines expand the scope of human experience, art provides a lens through which we can navigate their complexities. Through storytelling, visual media, and creative expression, we can weave fragments of alternate realities into cohesive narratives that resonate deeply with universal themes. Join me as we journey into the realm of artistic creation, where imagination bridges the gaps between worlds. The unconscious mind and temporal flow. Imagine this. You're lying in bed, drifting between sleep and wakefulness. Suddenly, you find yourself in a dream, a vivid, immersive world where time behaves unpredictably. Hours pass in what feels like minutes, or entire lifetimes unfold in the span of a single night. This is the domain of the unconscious mind, a realm where temporal boundaries dissolve, and the flow of time becomes fluid, elastic, and deeply personal. Let's explore how the unconscious reshapes our perception of time, revealing hidden dimensions of experience that lie just beneath the surface of conscious awareness. The unconscious mind operates as a silent architect of human experience, weaving together memories, emotions, instincts, and desires into a tapestry that influences every aspect of our lives. One of its most intriguing functions is its ability to distort and reconfigure time. Dreams provide perhaps the clearest example of this phenomenon. In dreams, chronological order collapses, allowing past, present, and future to merge seamlessly. A childhood memory might collide with a speculative future scenario, creating narratives that defy logic yet feel profoundly meaningful. These temporal anomalies suggest that the unconscious isn't bound by linear progression. Instead, it moves freely across the timeline of our inner worlds. To better understand the relationship between the unconscious and temporal flow, let's examine its dual nature, creative and chaotic. On one hand, the unconscious serves as a wellspring of creativity, generating insights and solutions that emerge spontaneously during moments of relaxation or sleep. Artists, writers, and scientists often credit their breakthroughs to dreams or meditative states, where the rigid constraints of waking time loosen, enabling novel connections to form. On the other hand, the unconscious can also disrupt temporal coherence, producing fragmented experiences that challenge our sense of stability. Flashbacks, déjà vu, and premonitions, all phenomena linked to unconscious processes, blur the lines between past, present, and future, leaving us momentarily untethered from conventional notions of time. Let's pause here for a moment and reflect. Take a deep breath. Consider the last time you experienced a dream so vivid it lingered long after waking. Did time feel stretched or compressed within the dream? Were events arranged logically, or did they unfold in ways that defied explanation? The unconscious mind amplifies our awareness of time's malleability, reminding us that reality is far more complex than our conscious minds perceive. The implications of the unconscious mind extend far beyond individual psychology. They touch cultural expressions, artistic endeavors, and even spiritual practices, influencing how societies interpret the passage of time. Myths, rituals, and religious traditions often draw on archetypes rooted in the collective unconscious, a shared reservoir of symbols and motifs identified by Carl Jung. These archetypes resonate across generations because they tap into universal themes of transformation, renewal, and eternity. Similarly, art forms like music, poetry, and film harness the power of rhythm and pacing to evoke emotional responses tied to unconscious perceptions of time. Together, these manifestations highlight the profound impact of the unconscious on humanity's temporal imagination. Now, let's delve deeper into the emotional dimensions of the unconscious mind. At its core, the unconscious reflects humanity's longing for wholeness, a desire to integrate disparate fragments of identity and experience into a cohesive narrative. Dreams, for instance, often serve as rehearsals for unresolved conflicts, allowing individuals to process emotions and rehearse scenarios safely. This integration process shapes not only how we perceive time but also how we navigate change and growth. However, the unconscious can also evoke fear, particularly when its workings remain opaque or overwhelming. Nightmares, intrusive thoughts, and irrational fears stem from unconscious forces that resist conscious control, highlighting the tension between order and chaos within the psyche. Interestingly, the unconscious intersects with debates about free will and determinism. If much of our behavior is driven by unconscious impulses, biases, habits, and instincts, how much agency do we truly possess? Are we active participants in shaping our destinies, or are we merely vessels for subconscious drives? Philosophers argue that the unconscious complicates traditional dichotomies, suggesting that freedom lies not in denying unconscious influences but in recognizing and integrating them into conscious decision-making. This perspective reframes the unconscious not as an adversary but as a collaborator in the quest for self-understanding. Returning to science, researchers continue to investigate the mechanisms behind unconscious temporal distortions using tools like neuroimaging and psychoanalysis. Studies reveal that certain brain regions associated with memory and emotion play key roles in constructing subjective timelines. For example, the hippocampus helps organize episodic memories into coherent sequences, while the amygdala amplifies emotionally charged moments, making them feel disproportionately significant. Similarly, altered states of consciousness, induced by meditation, hypnosis, or psychedelics, can shift perceptions of time dramatically, offering glimpses into the unconscious's role in shaping temporal flow. While speculative, these findings underscore the complexity of human cognition, reminding us that time is as much a psychological construct as a physical reality. Before moving on, take another moment to reflect. Close your eyes if you'd like, and visualize yourself standing at the edge of a vast ocean, waves lapping rhythmically against the shore. Now imagine those waves representing the ebb and flow of your unconscious mind, carrying fragments of memory, emotion, and intuition back and forth across the sands of time. Ask yourself, how does your unconscious influence your perception of time? Does it expand moments of joy and compress periods of pain, or does it blur boundaries altogether, leaving you adrift in an eternal now? With this image in mind, let's transition to the next stage of our exploration. While the unconscious reveals hidden dimensions of temporal flow, creativity allows us to channel these insights into tangible expressions of human experience. Through art, innovation, and storytelling, we transform fleeting impressions into enduring legacies, bridging the gap between the seen and unseen. Join me as we journey into the realm of artistic creation, where imagination bends time into new shapes and forms. Artistic depictions of time. Imagine this. You're standing before a painting, its surface alive with swirling colors and dynamic forms. At first glance, it seems chaotic. Layers upon layers of brushstrokes collide, creating a sense of movement that defies stillness. Yet, as you gaze deeper, patterns emerge. Spirals suggest cycles, fractured lines evoke fragmentation, and luminous hues hint at transcendence. This is art's unique power to capture time, not as a static concept but as a living force, fluid and multifaceted. Let's explore how artists across mediums have depicted time, transforming abstract ideas into tangible expressions that resonate across cultures and eras. Art has long served as a mirror reflecting humanity's relationship with time. From ancient cave paintings to contemporary multimedia installations, creators have grappled with the challenge of visualizing an intangible phenomenon. Early depictions often emphasized the cyclical nature of existence, aligning with agricultural rhythms and celestial movements. For example, Egyptian hieroglyphs and Mayan carvings frequently incorporated symbols of the sun, moon, and seasons, illustrating time as a divine order governing life. These works remind us that time was once seen not merely as a human construct but as a sacred continuum connecting all beings. To better understand the diversity of artistic approaches to time, let's examine three recurring themes: linearity, circularity, and fragmentation. Each represents a distinct perspective on temporal flow, offering insights into the cultural and philosophical contexts in which they arose. Number 1. Linearity. Many Western traditions portray time as a straight line, moving inexorably from past to future. Medieval Christian artworks such as illuminated manuscripts and stained glass windows often depict biblical narratives in sequential panels, reinforcing the idea of salvation history unfolding toward an ultimate endpoint. Similarly, Renaissance paintings like Michelangelo's The Last Judgment emphasize linear progression, framing time as a journey toward redemption or damnation. In modern times, filmmakers like Stanley Kubrick, 2001, A Space Odyssey, and writers like James Joyce, Ulysses, continue this tradition, using narrative arcs to guide audiences through temporal landscapes imbued with meaning. Number 2. Circularity. In contrast, Eastern philosophies and indigenous cultures often embrace cyclical notions of time, viewing existence as a series of repeating patterns. Mandalas, intricate geometric designs found in Hindu and Buddhist art, symbolize the eternal cycle of creation, preservation, and destruction. Likewise, Native American sand paintings and Aboriginal art celebrate the interconnectedness of all things, suggesting that time loops back upon itself rather than marching forward. Contemporary artists like Yayoi Kusama with her infinity rooms, and Olafur Eliasson through immersive light installations, echo these principles, inviting viewers to experience time as a continuous loop rather than a finite sequence. Number 3. Fragmentation. The 20th century introduced new ways of thinking about time, influenced by scientific discoveries and societal upheavals. Cubism, pioneered by Pablo Picasso and Georges Braque, shattered traditional perspectives, presenting multiple viewpoints simultaneously to convey the complexity of modern life. Surrealists like Salvador Dali took this further, warping clocks and melting objects to evoke the fluidity of memory and dreams. Today, digital artists harness technology to fragment time digitally, creating glitch art and algorithmic visuals that reflect our fragmented attention spans and hyper-accelerated culture. Let's pause here for a moment and reflect. Take a deep breath. Consider your favorite work of art, whether it's a painting, film, song, or sculpture. How does it engage with the concept of time? Does it tell a story that unfolds chronologically, or does it disrupt expectations, challenging you to piece together meaning from disjointed elements? Artistic depictions of time invite us to see beyond the surface, encouraging active participation in the interpretation of temporal flow. The emotional resonance of artistic explorations of time lies in their ability to make the ineffable tangible. Through color, form, rhythm, and texture, artists translate fleeting sensations into enduring legacies. Music, for instance, offers perhaps the most visceral connection to time. Composers like Ludwig van Beethoven and John Cage manipulate tempo, silence, and repetition to evoke specific moods, while contemporary musicians experiment with looping and sampling to blur boundaries between past and present. Dance, too, captures time's essence through motion, transforming ephemerality into poetry. Whether witnessing a ballet performance or an impromptu street dance, we feel the pulse of time coursing through every gesture. Now, let's delve deeper into the philosophical implications of artistic depictions of time. By externalizing internal experiences, art bridges subjective and collective perceptions of temporality. It reminds us that time isn't uniform, it expands and contracts depending on context, emotion, and perspective. Moreover, art challenges us to reconsider the role of memory and imagination in shaping reality. Works like Marcel Proust's In Search of Lost Time or Chris Marker's film La Jetée blur the distinction between recollection and invention, suggesting that time exists not just outside us but within us, shaped by the stories we tell ourselves. Interestingly, artistic depictions of time intersect with debates about authenticity and representation. If time is inherently subjective, can any depiction claim objective truth? Or do all attempts to capture it inevitably distort reality, refracting it through the lens of individual creativity? Postmodern artists like Andy Warhol and Jean-Michel Basquiat embraced this ambiguity, questioning the authority of singular narratives and celebrating multiplicity instead. Their works remind us that time, and art itself, is always open to reinterpretation. Returning to science, researchers continue to study how art influences our perception of time. Neuroaesthetic studies reveal that engaging with art activates regions of the brain associated with reward, empathy, and introspection, altering our experience of duration. For example, watching a captivating film or listening to a favorite album can make hours pass unnoticed, while contemplating a thought-provoking painting may stretch moments into eternity. These findings highlight the reciprocal relationship between art and time, suggesting that creativity reshapes not only how we perceive the world but also how we inhabit it. Before moving on, take another moment to reflect. Close your eyes if you'd like and visualize yourself standing before a blank canvas, or perhaps holding a pen, instrument, or camera. Now ask yourself, how would you depict time? Would you choose bold strokes to represent urgency, soft gradients to evoke nostalgia, or jagged lines to signify disruption? Art invites us to participate in the ongoing dialogue about time, adding our voices to a chorus spanning millennia. With this image in mind, let's transition to the next stage of our exploration. While artistic depictions illuminate the complexities of time, they also inspire action, prompting us to live more fully in each moment. Join me as we conclude this journey by considering how embracing time's mysteries enriches our daily lives, fostering gratitude, curiosity, and wonder. The ethics of timing. Imagine this. You're sitting in a quiet room staring at an email draft on your screen. It's a message that could change someone's life, perhaps delivering news of acceptance into a program, offering a job opportunity, or even revealing something deeply personal. Your finger hovers over the send button, but you hesitate. Is now the right moment? Will sending it today bring joy, or cause harm? This is the ethical dimension of timing, the responsibility we bear in deciding not just what to communicate or act upon, but when. Let's explore how the ethics of timing shapes our interactions, decisions, and relationships, and what it reveals about morality itself. Timing isn't merely a logistical consideration, it's a moral one. The same words spoken at different moments can carry vastly different meanings and consequences. A compliment delivered during a moment of vulnerability might uplift someone immeasurably, while the same comment made casually in passing may feel hollow or dismissive. Similarly, delaying action, whether out of fear, indecision, or calculation, can have profound implications. In medicine, for example, administering treatment too late can mean the difference between recovery and loss. In diplomacy, waiting too long to intervene in a crisis can escalate suffering. Timing forces us to grapple with questions of intent, impact, and foresight, challenging us to balance urgency with prudence. To better understand the ethical dilemmas posed by timing, let's examine three key dimensions: anticipation, delay, and synchronicity. Each represents a distinct facet of temporal decision-making, highlighting the complexities involved in navigating time responsibly. 1. Anticipation. Acting preemptively, before events unfold, carries its own set of ethical challenges. Consider predictive policing algorithms, which aim to prevent crime by identifying potential offenders before they commit offenses. While proponents argue that such measures enhance public safety, critics warn of bias, profiling, and violations of civil liberties. Anticipatory actions often require weighing probabilities against certainties, leaving room for error and unintended harm. Yet, failing to anticipate risks can be equally problematic, as seen in cases of environmental neglect or financial mismanagement. Striking the right balance demands both humility and vigilance. 2. Delay. Deliberately postponing action introduces another layer of ethical complexity. Delay can stem from noble intentions, buying time to gather more information, ensuring fairness, or avoiding rash decisions. However, it can also mask evasion, procrastination, or cowardice. Historical examples abound: leaders who delayed addressing social injustices, corporations that postponed recalling defective products, or individuals who hesitated to confront uncomfortable truths. Delay becomes particularly fraught when lives are at stake, raising questions about accountability and justice. When does patience become negligence? And how do we distinguish thoughtful restraint from harmful inaction? 3. Synchronicity. Aligning actions with opportune moments underscores the importance of context in ethical decision-making. Delivering difficult news, for instance, requires sensitivity to the recipient's emotional state and readiness to process information. Likewise, launching initiatives, whether artistic projects, political campaigns, or scientific breakthroughs, relies heavily on timing to maximize impact. Synchronicity highlights the interconnectedness of human experience, reminding us that no act occurs in isolation. Ethical timing involves attunement to others' needs, rhythms, and capacities, fostering harmony rather than discord. Let's pause here for a moment and reflect. Take a deep breath. Consider a recent decision where timing played a critical role. Did you act quickly, driven by intuition or necessity? Or did you wait, hoping circumstances would improve or clarify? How did the outcome align with your intentions? The ethics of timing invites us to examine not only what we do but when we choose to do it, recognizing that every moment carries weight and consequence. The philosophical dimensions of timing extend far beyond individual choices. They touch systemic issues, cultural norms, and technological advancements, influencing how societies navigate progress and preservation. For example, debates about climate change center around the ethics of timing. Should immediate sacrifices be made to mitigate future disasters, or should resources focus on adapting to inevitable shifts? Similarly, innovations like artificial intelligence raise urgent questions about deployment timelines. Should new technologies be released rapidly to drive economic growth, or should caution prevail to ensure safety and equity? These dilemmas underscore the tension between short-term gains and long-term sustainability, prompting us to reconsider priorities and values. Now, let's delve deeper into the emotional resonance of timing. At its core, the ethics of timing reflects humanity's struggle to reconcile conflicting impulses, the desire for immediacy versus the need for reflection, the pull of hope versus the specter of regret. Emotions like guilt, anxiety, and relief often accompany decisions tied to timing, amplifying their significance. For instance, apologizing too soon might come across as insincere, while waiting too long risks deepening wounds. Navigating these nuances requires empathy, a willingness to step outside ourselves and consider how our actions resonate with others across temporal boundaries. Interestingly, the ethics of timing intersects with debates about free will and determinism. If outcomes depend so heavily on when actions occur, does this imply greater agency, or less? On one hand, timing empowers us to shape trajectories, turning pivotal moments into opportunities for transformation. On the other hand, external constraints, such as deadlines, societal pressures, or biological limits, can narrow options, forcing difficult trade-offs. This interplay between choice and circumstance mirrors broader existential questions, reminding us that freedom exists within parameters, not despite them. Returning to science, researchers continue to investigate the psychological and neurological underpinnings of timing-related decisions. Studies reveal that brain regions associated with impulse control and risk assessment play key roles in determining whether to act immediately or delay gratification. Similarly, behavioral economics explores how framing effects and cognitive biases influence perceptions of optimal timing. Together, these findings highlight the intricate dance between rationality and emotion, suggesting that ethical timing arises from a delicate balance between head and heart. Before moving over, take another moment to reflect. Close your eyes if you'd like, and visualize yourself standing at a crossroads, each path representing a possible course of action. Now ask yourself, how will my decision ripple outward, affecting not only the present but also the future? What responsibilities do I hold toward those impacted by my timing? The ethics of timing challenges us to embrace uncertainty, cultivating wisdom in the face of imperfection. With this image in mind, let's transition to the next stage of our exploration. While the ethics of timing compels us to weigh consequences carefully, living fully in the moment reminds us to cherish fleeting experiences without overthinking. Join me as we conclude this journey by considering how embracing time's dual nature, its fragility and richness, can inspire gratitude, courage, and connection. The eternal mystery of time. Imagine this. You're standing on the edge of a vast desert under an endless night sky, stars scattered like grains of sand across the heavens. The air is still and the silence is profound, broken only by the rhythm of your breath. As you gaze upward, you feel the weight of eternity pressing gently against your awareness. Time stretches infinitely in all directions, back to the origins of the universe, forward into unknowable futures, and inward into the depths of your own consciousness. This is the eternal mystery of time, a question that has haunted humanity since our earliest days, inviting wonder, contemplation, and awe. Let's embrace this enigma, not as a puzzle to solve but as a truth to live within. Time is perhaps the most fundamental yet elusive phenomenon we encounter. It governs every aspect of existence, from the beating of our hearts to the rotation of galaxies, yet it remains stubbornly resistant to definition. Is time a physical entity, measurable and quantifiable? Or is it a construct of the mind, shaped by perception and memory? Philosophers, scientists, poets, and mystics have grappled with these questions for millennia, each offering glimpses of insight without ever fully unraveling the mystery. And perhaps that's the point. Time isn't meant to be understood in its entirety but experienced as a living paradox, an ever-present absence, an intangible thread weaving through the fabric of reality. To better appreciate the eternal mystery of time, let's reflect on three dimensions that encapsulate its essence: infinity, immediacy, and interconnectedness. Each reveals a facet of time's complexity, reminding us of its boundless nature and intimate presence. Number 1. Infinity. Time's infinite scope defies comprehension. On one end lies the past, a repository of countless moments stretching back beyond human history to the dawn of creation. On the other lies the future, an uncharted expanse filled with infinite possibilities. Between them flows the present, a razor-thin sliver of existence constantly slipping away. Contemplating infinity evokes both exhilaration and humility, challenging us to reconcile our fleeting mortality with the enduring cosmos. Ancient civilizations expressed this duality through mythologies of cyclical rebirth, while modern physicists explore concepts like black holes and multiverses, seeking clues about time's ultimate fate. Number 2. Immediacy. Despite its vastness, time is also profoundly personal, experienced moment by moment in the immediacy of now. Every breath, every heartbeat, every blink of an eye anchors us to the present, grounding us in the only slice of time we can truly inhabit. Yet, the present is ephemeral, dissolving instantly into memory or anticipation. This tension between permanence and impermanence underscores the poignancy of life itself, urging us to savor each moment while acknowledging its transience. Poets like Rumi and Emily Dickinson capture this paradox beautifully, using language to distill the ineffable essence of now. Number 3. Interconnectedness. Time binds us together, not just as individuals moving along parallel timelines but as participants in a shared continuum. Our actions ripple outward, influencing others across generations and geographies. A single decision made centuries ago may shape the course of history. A kind word spoken today might alter someone's tomorrow. This interconnectedness reminds us that time isn't merely linear but multidimensional, encompassing collective memories, cultural legacies, and ecological cycles. Indigenous wisdom traditions often emphasize this holistic view, framing time as a sacred web rather than a straight line. Let's pause here for a moment and reflect. Take a deep breath. Consider the last time you felt acutely aware of time's dual nature, its immensity and intimacy. Perhaps it was during a sunrise when light spilled over the horizon, marking the transition from night to day. Or maybe it was during a quiet moment of solitude, when the ticking clock seemed to fade, leaving only the pulse of your own being. Time's mystery invites us to dwell in these contradictions, finding meaning not in resolving them but in embracing their richness. The philosophical implications of time's mystery extend far beyond abstract speculation. They touch every aspect of human endeavor, shaping how we approach love, work, creativity, and spirituality. For example, existentialist thinkers like Martin Heidegger argue that authentic living arises from confronting time's finitude head-on, recognizing death as the horizon against which all choices gain significance. Similarly, spiritual practices such as meditation and prayer encourage practitioners to transcend ordinary perceptions of time, entering states of heightened awareness where past, present, and future converge. These perspectives remind us that time isn't just something we inhabit, it's something we co-create, moment by moment. Now, let's delve deeper into the emotional resonance of time's mystery. At its core, this enigma reflects humanity's longing for connection, to ourselves, to others, and to the cosmos. Emotions like wonder, reverence, and nostalgia often accompany encounters with time's majesty, amplifying our sense of belonging within a larger whole. Yet, time's mystery also evokes vulnerability, confronting us with the inevitability of loss and change. Balancing these dual impulses, awe and fragility, is central to navigating the human condition, fostering resilience amidst uncertainty. Interestingly, the eternal mystery of time intersects with debates about knowledge and faith. Science seeks to demystify time through observation and experimentation, revealing insights about relativity, entropy, and quantum mechanics. Spirituality, on the other hand, embraces time's inscrutability, viewing it as a gateway to deeper truths inaccessible through rational inquiry alone. Together, these approaches highlight the complementarity of reason and intuition, suggesting that understanding time requires both analytical rigor and poetic imagination. Returning to science, researchers continue to probe the boundaries of temporal knowledge using cutting-edge tools and theories. Cosmologists study the origins of time at the Big Bang, while neuroscientists investigate how brains process duration and sequence. Despite these advances, gaps remain, reminders that some mysteries may forever elude explanation. Rather than diminishing curiosity, however, these unknowns inspire further exploration, fueling humanity's relentless quest for meaning. Before moving on, take another moment to reflect. Close your eyes if you'd like, and visualize yourself standing at the intersection of eternity and now. Picture streams of light radiating outward, carrying fragments of past, present, and future alike. Now ask yourself, how does the mystery of time shape my daily life? Does it fill me with wonder, or overwhelm me with uncertainty? Can I find peace in not knowing, trusting that time holds answers beyond my grasp? With this image in mind, let's conclude our journey by celebrating time's paradoxical beauty. While the eternal mystery of time resists resolution, it offers something far greater, an invitation to live fully, love deeply, and seek endlessly. Join me as we step forward into the unknown, guided by gratitude for the fleeting gift of now. Living in sync, harmonizing with time. Imagine this. You're standing on a quiet beach at sunrise, the waves lapping rhythmically against the shore. Each wave arrives in its own time, sometimes gently, sometimes with force, but always in harmony with the ocean's pulse. You notice how effortlessly nature moves in sync, adhering to rhythms that are both ancient and eternal. Now turn your attention inward. Do you move through life with the same ease, attuned to your own natural cadence? Or do you find yourself fighting against the current, trying to impose rigid schedules and unrealistic expectations onto a world that refuses to conform? This is the art of living in sync, harmonizing with time rather than resisting it. Let's explore what it means to align ourselves with the flow of existence, embracing both the ebb and flow of our inner and outer worlds. Living in sync begins with understanding that time isn't something external we must conquer. It's an integral part of who we are. Our bodies operate according to intricate rhythms, the steady beat of our hearts, the rise and fall of our breath, the cycles of sleep and wakefulness. These biological clocks, known as circadian rhythms, govern not only physical processes but also mental clarity, emotional resilience, and creative energy. When we honor these rhythms instead of overriding them, we tap into a reservoir of vitality and purpose. For example, consider how morning sunlight resets our internal clocks, signaling the start of a new day. By rising early and exposing ourselves to natural light, we align with this primordial rhythm, setting the stage for optimal performance and well-being. Conversely, ignoring these cues, staying up late under artificial lights or skipping meals, throws us off balance, leaving us feeling fragmented and drained. The concept of synchronicity offers another lens through which to view alignment with time. Coined by psychologist Carl Jung, synchronicity refers to meaningful coincidences that defy logical explanation yet resonate deeply within us. These moments often occur when we're in the zone, fully present and attuned to the unfolding of events. Think of a writer struggling with a story's ending, only to overhear a conversation that provides the perfect resolution. Or imagine preparing for a job interview, unsure if you're ready, then meeting someone unexpectedly who shares advice that boosts your confidence just in time. Synchronicity reminds us that time isn't merely linear, it's a web of interconnected threads, each vibrating with potential. When we tune into this frequency, trusting intuition, remaining open to possibilities, we create opportunities for magic to enter our lives. To cultivate synchronicity, we must first learn to listen, to ourselves and to the world around us. Mindfulness practices serve as powerful tools for sharpening this awareness. Meditation, for instance, trains the mind to focus on the present moment, quieting the noise of past regrets and future anxieties. Journaling allows us to unpack thoughts and emotions, uncovering patterns that might otherwise go unnoticed. Even simple acts like taking a slow walk in nature or savoring a meal without distractions can heighten our sensitivity to subtle signals. Over time, these practices teach us to recognize when we're in alignment, and when we're not. They help us discern whether a delay is a sign to wait patiently or a nudge to take bold action. Yet living in sync doesn't mean abandoning structure altogether. Routines and rituals play essential roles in fostering stability and intentionality. Consider the daily habits of successful artists, athletes, and entrepreneurs. Many attribute their achievements to consistent practices that ground them, providing a framework within which creativity and spontaneity can flourish. A writer might dedicate mornings to drafting, reserving afternoons for editing and reflection. An athlete might follow a strict training regimen while allowing room for rest and recovery. Rituals, too, carry profound significance, marking transitions and milestones in ways that resonate across cultures. Lighting candles during winter solstice celebrations, sharing meals with loved ones, or pausing for a moment of silence before beginning a task. All these gestures reinforce our connection to larger cycles of time. Of course, finding harmony requires striking a delicate balance between structure and flexibility. Too much rigidity stifles growth, while excessive looseness leads to chaos. The key lies in adapting to changing circumstances without losing sight of core values and priorities. Life rarely unfolds according to plan, and clinging to predetermined outcomes can cause unnecessary suffering. Instead, embrace uncertainty as an invitation to explore alternative paths. Perhaps the delayed flight gives you extra time to read a book you've been meaning to finish. Maybe the canceled meeting frees up space for a long overdue conversation with a friend. Flexibility transforms obstacles into opportunities, reminding us that timing is rarely ours to control. Stories abound of individuals who've achieved remarkable feats by syncing their actions with optimal timing. Take Serena Williams, whose dominance in tennis stems not only from her skill but also from her meticulous attention to preparation and recovery. She listens to her body, resting when needed and pushing herself strategically during competitions. Similarly, Vincent van Gogh painted some of his most iconic works during periods of intense focus, driven by an almost mystical sense of urgency. His letters reveal a man acutely aware of his mortality, channeling despair into creation with breathtaking intensity. Closer to home, think of the last time you felt truly in the zone, whether delivering a presentation, cooking a meal, or playing with children. That effortless flow arises when external demands align with internal readiness, creating moments of pure presence. Despite these examples, achieving harmony isn't reserved for extraordinary individuals. It's accessible to everyone willing to pay attention. Start small. Notice how your energy waxes and wanes throughout the day. Are you sharpest in the morning, or does inspiration strike late at night? Adjust your schedule accordingly, reserving high-energy tasks for peak hours and saving routine chores for low-energy phases. Experiment with different routines until you find what works best for you. And don't be afraid to revise them as circumstances change. Remember, the goal isn't perfection but progress, a gradual tuning of your instrument to play in concert with the symphony of existence. Let's pause here for a moment and reflect. Take a deep breath. Consider the areas of your life where you feel out of sync. Is it work overwhelming your evenings? Relationships strained by mismatched expectations? Health neglected due to poor sleep habits? Now ask yourself, what small changes could restore balance? Perhaps establishing a nightly wind-down ritual will improve your rest. Maybe delegating certain responsibilities will free up time for passions you've set aside. Trust that even incremental shifts can yield transformative results over time. Interestingly, living in sync intersects with broader cultural and ecological perspectives. Indigenous traditions often emphasize living in harmony with the land, honoring seasonal cycles and celestial movements. Planting crops during spring rains, harvesting in autumn, and celebrating solstices reflect a deep understanding of time as cyclical rather than linear. Modern sustainability efforts echo this wisdom, urging humanity to realign consumption patterns with Earth's regenerative capacities. On a personal level, adopting such practices fosters gratitude for the interconnectedness of all things, reinforcing the idea that our individual rhythms contribute to a greater whole. Before moving on, take another moment to reflect. Close your eyes if you'd like, and visualize yourself standing at the edge of a vast ocean, waves lapping rhythmically against the shore. Feel the pull of the tide, the push of the breeze, the steady pulse of your heartbeat. Now ask yourself, how does my life mirror, or resist, these natural flows? Can I trust the process of becoming, surrendering to the unknown while remaining grounded in the present? Living in sync invites us to embrace paradoxes, effort and ease, structure and spontaneity, control and surrender. With this image in mind, let's transition to the next stage of our exploration. While harmonizing with time brings peace and clarity, letting go entirely opens doors to even deeper mysteries. Join me as we delve into the transformative power of release, discovering what lies beyond attachment to timelines and outcomes. Letting go, surrendering to time's flow. Imagine this. You're standing at the edge of a river watching the water rush past. Each ripple carries fragments of leaves, twigs, and sunlight, swirling together before vanishing downstream. No matter how tightly you clench your fists or strain to hold onto the current, it slips through your fingers. A relentless reminder that time cannot be grasped, only witnessed. This is the essence of letting go, surrendering to time's flow, releasing resistance, and allowing life to unfold as it will. It's not an act of defeat but one of liberation, a recognition that true peace arises when we stop fighting what we cannot control. Let's explore the profound freedom found in embracing impermanence and trusting the journey. Letting go begins with confronting humanity's instinctive struggle against time. From the moment we're born, we're taught to measure, manage, and maximize every second. Productivity charts, ticking clocks, and looming deadlines dominate our lives, fueling a perpetual sense of urgency. Yet beneath this frantic striving lies a deeper fear, the fear of loss, aging, and mortality. We cling desperately to moments, relationships, and achievements, hoping to preserve them forever. But time is inherently transient, indifferent to our attempts to pin it down. The harder we fight, the more we suffer. Paradoxically, the antidote to this suffering isn't control, it's surrender. Surrender doesn't mean giving up or abandoning responsibility. Rather, it means relinquishing attachment to outcomes and timelines. Picture a gardener planting seeds in fertile soil. They can prepare the ground, water the plants, and shield them from harsh weather, but ultimately, growth depends on forces beyond their influence. Similarly, we can set intentions, make plans, and work diligently toward goals, but the results often emerge according to their own rhythm. By letting go of rigid expectations, we create space for unexpected blessings to bloom. A delayed promotion might lead to unforeseen opportunities. A postponed trip could deepen connections at home. Trusting the process transforms frustration into faith. Philosophical and spiritual traditions across cultures offer rich insights into the art of surrender. In Buddhism, practitioners cultivate mindfulness to observe thoughts and emotions without judgment, learning to let go of attachments that cause suffering. Stoicism teaches acceptance of external events while focusing energy on internal virtues like courage and wisdom. Mystical traditions describe divine timing, the belief that everything happens exactly when it's meant to, guided by a higher intelligence. These teachings share a common thread. Surrender isn't passive resignation but active participation in the unfolding of existence. It requires strength, not weakness, to release what no longer serves us and embrace uncertainty with open arms. The practice of letting go extends to everyday experiences, offering practical tools for navigating life's inevitable changes. Grief, for example, demands surrender. When someone we love dies, we face a choice: resist the pain, prolonging suffering, or allow ourselves to feel fully, honoring the depth of our loss. Similarly, forgiveness involves releasing resentment toward others and ourselves, freeing emotional energy trapped in the past. Even mundane challenges like missing a train or spilling coffee invite us to practice non-attachment, reminding us that setbacks are temporary and rarely define our worth. Science, too, supports the benefits of releasing control. Neurological studies reveal that chronic stress, from trying to micromanage time or outcomes, activates the amygdala, triggering fight or flight responses that harm physical and mental health. Conversely, practices like meditation, deep breathing, and gratitude activate the parasympathetic nervous system, promoting relaxation and resilience. Letting go fosters neuroplasticity, rewiring the brain to respond more calmly to adversity. Over time, these shifts accumulate, enabling us to navigate life's uncertainties with greater equanimity. Yet surrendering to time's flow also invites us to reframe our relationship with impermanence. Everything we cherish, relationships, careers, possessions, is fleeting, destined to change or fade. While this truth may seem daunting, it also holds beauty. Impermanence heightens appreciation for the present moment, infusing ordinary experiences with extraordinary significance. Consider the way autumn leaves glow with vibrant color before falling, or how laughter shared with loved ones feels richer knowing it won't last forever. When we accept impermanence, we learn to savor each breath, each touch, each word spoken in kindness. Stories abound of individuals who've transformed their lives through acts of surrender. Take Maya Angelou, whose memoirs chronicle years of hardship and heartbreak yet radiate joy and resilience. She credited her ability to endure and thrive to letting go of bitterness and embracing grace. Or consider Viktor Frankl, who survived Nazi concentration camps by focusing on inner freedom rather than external circumstances. His philosophy of tragic optimism teaches that even in the darkest times, meaning can be found by surrendering to what is while holding on to hope for what could be. On a smaller scale, think of the last time you released something: a grudge, a habit, a dream that no longer fit, and felt lighter afterward. Letting go creates room for new possibilities to enter. To cultivate surrender in daily life, start with small, intentional acts. Begin by observing areas where you cling too tightly. Are you fixated on a specific timeline for success? Do you replay past mistakes endlessly, wishing they had unfolded differently? Acknowledge these tendencies without judgment, then gently redirect your focus to the present. Practice saying "I don't know" instead of rushing to solve problems prematurely. Allow silence to settle between conversations, noticing how much unfolds naturally without intervention. Celebrate imperfection, recognizing that messiness is part of the human experience. Let's pause here for a moment and reflect. Take a deep breath. Close your eyes if you'd like, and visualize yourself standing at the edge of that river again. Watch the water flow past, carrying bits of debris and sunlight alike. Now ask yourself, what am I holding on to that weighs me down? Is it a relationship that has run its course? A goal that no longer aligns with my values? A fear of the unknown? Imagine placing those burdens on the surface of the water, watching them drift away until they disappear from sight. Feel the lightness that comes with release, the freedom of moving forward unencumbered. Interestingly, letting go intersects with broader ecological and existential themes. Indigenous wisdom traditions emphasize living harmoniously with nature's cycles, respecting the inevitability of death and decay as essential components of renewal. Modern environmental movements echo this ethos, urging humanity to relinquish exploitative practices in favor of sustainable coexistence. On a personal level, adopting such perspectives fosters humility, reminding us that we are part of something far greater than ourselves. Surrender becomes not just an individual act but a collective responsibility, a way of honoring the interconnected web of existence. Before moving on, take another moment to reflect. Envision your life as a tapestry woven from countless threads of memory, anticipation, and presence. Some strands shimmer brightly, representing cherished moments. Others fray and fade, symbolizing losses endured. Now imagine stepping back from the loom, allowing the pattern to emerge organically without interference. Ask yourself, can I trust the design taking shape, even if I can't see the full picture yet? Am I willing to trade certainty for curiosity, control for compassion? With this image in mind, let's transition to the final stage of our exploration. While surrendering to time's flow brings peace and clarity, celebrating the gift of now anchors us firmly in the richness of the present moment. Join me as we conclude this journey by embracing the transformative power of presence, the ultimate expression of harmony with time. The gift of now, a celebration of presence. Imagine this. You're sitting on a park bench, the morning sun warming your skin. A child nearby laughs uncontrollably as they chase a fluttering butterfly, their joy uncontainable and pure. Leaves rustle softly overhead, and the faint hum of distant traffic blends seamlessly with the chirping of birds. For a moment, nothing else matters. No deadlines looming, no regrets lingering, no anxieties about what comes next. This is the gift of now, a fleeting yet eternal instant where time dissolves, leaving only the raw beauty of being alive. Let's celebrate the transformative power of presence, embracing each moment as a treasure waiting to be claimed. The present moment is the only slice of time we truly possess, a fragile, luminous thread woven into the vast tapestry of existence. Yet so often we let it slip away unnoticed, distracted by thoughts of the past or future. We scroll through our phones while walking, replay old arguments in our minds during conversations, or plan tomorrow's tasks instead of savoring today's experiences. In doing so, we miss the richness of life unfolding around us, the way sunlight dances on water, how a stranger's smile can brighten an entire day, or the quiet satisfaction of completing a simple task well. Living fully means reclaiming these moments, anchoring ourselves in the here and now. Presence isn't just a state of mind, it's a practice, an ongoing effort to cultivate awareness and gratitude. Think of it as tuning an instrument. When played with care and attention, even the simplest notes resonate deeply. Mindfulness practices serve as tools for sharpening this awareness, helping us notice details that might otherwise go overlooked. Try focusing on your breath for a few minutes, feeling the cool air enter your nostrils and the warmth leave your lips. Or take a mindful walk, paying close attention to the sensation of each step, the texture of the ground beneath your feet, the rhythm of your movement. These small acts train the mind to stay rooted in the present, creating pockets of stillness amid life's chaos. Artists and poets have long understood the power of presence, capturing its essence in works that transcend time. Consider Vincent van Gogh's Starry Night, where swirling skies seem alive with motion, or Mary Oliver's poetry, which invites readers to marvel at the ordinary wonders of nature. Such creations remind us that presence transforms the mundane into the miraculous. A single flower becomes a universe of color and form. A drop of rain reveals intricate patterns as it splashes against glass. When we pay attention, noticing shapes, textures, sounds, we uncover layers of meaning hidden within everyday experiences. Yet presence isn't limited to solitary contemplation, it also enriches relationships. How many times have you been physically present with someone but mentally elsewhere, scrolling through emails or rehearsing responses instead of truly listening? True connection requires presence. Leaning in, making eye contact, responding with empathy and curiosity. Imagine sitting across from a loved one, giving them your undivided attention. Notice the nuances of their expression, the cadence of their voice, the pauses between words. These subtle cues carry more weight than any scripted response ever could. By showing up fully, we affirm the value of those around us, and deepen our own sense of belonging. Living in the present doesn't mean ignoring responsibilities or dismissing future aspirations. Rather, it involves approaching them with clarity and intention. Picture a musician playing a complex piece of music. They don't rush ahead to anticipate the final note or linger wistfully on the opening melody. They focus entirely on the sound emerging from their instrument right now. Similarly, we can navigate life's challenges without becoming consumed by worry or regret. Planning for the future remains essential, but it must stem from a foundation of grounded presence rather than anxious anticipation. Philosophical and spiritual traditions offer profound insights into the art of presence. Buddhism teaches mindfulness as a path to enlightenment, encouraging practitioners to observe reality without clinging to judgments or desires. Stoicism emphasizes controlling what we can, our thoughts, attitudes, actions, while accepting external events with equanimity. Mystics describe divine presence as a state of unity with all creation, transcending individual identity to merge with something greater. These teachings share a common message. Presence isn't passive, it's an active engagement with life requiring courage, discipline, and openness. Science, too, supports the benefits of living in the moment. Studies show that mindfulness reduces stress, improves cognitive function, and enhances emotional regulation. Neurological research reveals that practicing presence strengthens neural pathways associated with empathy, creativity, and resilience. Even brief moments of focused attention, such as pausing to appreciate a sunset or sharing laughter with friends, activate reward centers in the brain, fostering a sense of well-being. Over time, these micro-moments accumulate, rewiring our brains to respond more positively to life's ups and downs. Stories abound of individuals who've transformed their lives by embracing presence. Take Eckhart Tolle, whose best-selling book The Power of Now chronicles his journey from despair to awakening after realizing the futility of dwelling on past pain or future fears. Or consider Malala Yousafzai, whose unwavering focus on education and equality stems from her ability to remain steadfastly present despite unimaginable adversity. On a smaller scale, think of the last time you felt fully immersed in an activity, whether cooking a meal, reading a novel, or playing with children. That effortless flow arises when external distractions fade, leaving only the joy of doing. To cultivate presence in daily life, start with small, intentional acts. Begin by observing areas where you habitually disconnect. Do you zone out during meals, watching TV instead of tasting your food? Do you multitask incessantly, juggling multiple projects without finishing any? Acknowledge these tendencies without judgment, then gently redirect your focus to the task at hand. Practice saying yes to whatever arises in the moment, trusting that each experience holds value, even if it feels uncomfortable or inconvenient. Celebrate imperfection, recognizing that mistakes are opportunities to learn and grow. Let's pause here for a moment and reflect. Take a deep breath. Close your eyes if you'd like, and visualize yourself standing in a field under an endless sky. Feel the breeze brush against your skin, hear the rustle of grass beneath your feet, smell the earthy scent of soil. Now ask yourself, what am I missing because I'm not paying attention? Is it the warmth of sunlight streaming through a window? The melody of rain tapping against glass? The gentle cadence of a loved one's voice? Imagine opening yourself fully to these sensations, allowing them to fill you with wonder and gratitude. Interestingly, presence intersects with broader ecological and existential themes. Indigenous wisdom traditions emphasize living harmoniously with nature's rhythms, respecting the interconnectedness of all beings. Modern environmental movements echo this ethos, urging humanity to slow down, reconnect with the land, and honor the sacredness of every moment. On a personal level, adopting such perspectives fosters humility, reminding us that we are part of something far greater than ourselves. Presence becomes not just an individual act but a collective responsibility, a way of honoring the web of existence. Before moving on, take another moment to reflect. Envision your life as a mosaic composed of countless tiny tiles, each representing a single moment. Some tiles shimmer brightly, symbolizing cherished memories. Others blend subtly into the background, signifying overlooked instants. Now imagine stepping back from the mosaic, noticing how each tile contributes to the overall design. Ask yourself, Can I see beauty in both the extraordinary and the ordinary? Am I willing to trade distraction for devotion, fragmentation for wholeness? With this image in mind, let's conclude our journey together. While exploring memory, anticipation, grief, creativity, ethics, and mystery has enriched our understanding of time, celebrating presence anchors us firmly in its heartbeat. The gift of now lies not in escaping time but in embracing it fully, with open hearts, curious minds, and grateful spirits. May we carry this awareness forward, cherishing each moment as a sacred offering.